Toy Daddies. What's up, everyone? It's Wednesday. We didn't even figure out who was doing it, but it's
You're doing
Wednesday.
it.
It's the Toy Daddies. It's the TPC, and I have some wonderful young men here. We got
No.Chewing. Ooh, why, hello. Happy Wednesday.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm feeling really good today. Yimbo?
What's up? I just realized that, like, whenever I trim the beard down, I do gain a few years back because it's the grays aren't quite as. Since we're all young men, I look a little younger when it's trimmed. When it starts growing out, this is very white. How's it going?
I feel like all of us look a little refreshed today, like more so than usual. At least I feel that way, but I feel like both of you look like that too.
Hey, I was on a field trip at a
Were you?
YMCA camp, and I was outside all day, and it was lovely.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It was a good day.
Cool.
Can you talk about the field trip? Well, what kind of field trip was it?
It was like so it was at a camp, and they did some team building stuff.
Oh, okay.
Went on a canoe and that type of It
That's
was just
awesome.
a nice little day. Nice little day.
Well, I am so excited for tonight because we have a very special guest, and I'll wait till he gets in the frame. But what else is going on, guys?
Well, in the toy world, I was so sad. So this is not to jump ahead to what's making me happy. But my kids have their preschool graduation tomorrow. So they're still going to be in pre-K until, like for a few more weeks, but this is like the official graduation night. So
do they do cap and gowns?
No, I don't. But they have songs that they've been practicing, and
nice.
they're all excited. So my wife and I decorated, before I came down here, and so we're all excited for that. And yeah, that's a big thing. So yeah, I can't believe they're going to be in kindergarten next year.
Oh, that's cool. Tomorrow is my son's last day of kindergarten.
There you go.
So is that exciting or?
It's okay. I mean, getting older. Yeah. I don't know. Things are getting more complicated.
I heard first day of kindergarten and first day of college are the hardest as a parent.
Sure. Oh God, I can't even think about that. But
speaking of winning that race,
we're Toy Daddies, right? So we're talking about our kids. My kids had their end of the year concert yesterday.
All right,
nice. And it was nice. My daughters had solos in some of the songs, which was fun to watch. But I think the way they do it is they do like kindergarten, first grade, third grade, second grade, third grade, and so they go up in progression. My daughter's been here since kindergarten, and then I see them at fifth grade, and I see all of her friends, and they're all grown up, or not grown up, but they're just so much older. And I remember when they were really young, and it made me really sad. It really made me sad just seeing them like all that much older. But it was also an awesome concert, and it was a lot of fun. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Dude, I said to my wife that it's crazy because like when you're a kid, like I would remember getting so annoyed at either people I knew, family members or whatever, like, oh, you got so big. I remember when, like, ugh. But it's because it really does for everyone else. It goes by so quickly. It's just, yeah, it's crazy, but it's exciting. Another milestone of life.
Well, speaking of milestones, I think this next guest is a pretty amazing guest with a lot of milestones as well. And I cannot wait to talk to him. He's been waiting in the wings for a little bit. So let's bring him on. Let's talk to him. Ladies and gentlemen, Harry Moore.
What's up, Harry?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you thank you so much. I mean, like when we think about people to reach out to, like I've been a big fan of your stuff for a long time now. When I came across your Instagram, I went, wait a minute, you're the guy that like does all of the art for the figures that I love. Like, this is so cool. So seeing all of your, like just watching your account grow. But man, yeah, like you have the Iron Man stuff. So this just felt like such a perfect, like a perfect opportunity to talk to somebody who works in our fandom. So thank you for agreeing to come on tonight.
Well, as I said, I'm kind of new at this, doing these kind of things, plugging myself, but it feels good to do it, and especially with you're sitting here with some of the product already, and you mentioned earlier that you wanted to hear the origin story, and I'm sure we all have that origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And
some more interesting than others, yes.
Hey, and mine may not be interesting, but it's how I landed, or should say, what got the ball rolling. So if you're ready, I'll hit you with the tidbit of why I'm maybe obsessed with toy packaging. My parents did a good job with Christmas every year. I got pretty much the toys that I wanted to get. We weren't rich, weren't poor. My dad worked really hard to take care of things, and one of the things that that he wanted to make sure that had the education, all that stuff, and he worked on cars, and just thought that's not some of the stuff, backbreaking work, didn't want me to do. He taught me a lot of things in life, and I respect him so much for backing and believing in me that I could be an artist, where in the town that I was from, it's like, that's not what you went to do. So with that being said, the neighbor, though, had, I don't know if the term is generations, but they were 3 boys spread out about 10 years. And so that was like, where I got introduced to toys. And because these boys were spread out 3 years, there was a lot of things from the G.I. Joe to Micronauts to Shogun Warriors, to Mego, to Superpowers, to Transformers. But what got me was the mother of these 3 boys, from the 60s to 80s. To keep things straight, she would keep the toy packaging and write the name of David, Johnny, whoever the child that got that for Christmas.
It's a great idea.
Stored it in the basement flat. If there was a box, she stored the black box flat, or if a blister card, carefully removed the Star Wars stuff. And one day, I don't know why, I was in the basement, we were playing in the basement, and I find this, or I think actually it was an argument about whose toy was what, and she went down to the basement, got the card to say, well, this is David's toy, or this is Johnny's toy, whatever it was. And at a certain point, David was the last of the 3 that was really like still playing with toys, so everything became his. But I went sneak down and look at this basically flat file drawer of all this packaging, and I was like, some of this stuff was before my time, and it was beautiful. I mean, go back and look at some of those retro G.I. Joe boxes. Well, they're retro now, but I mean, these boxes, I guess, were from 64 to 74, and some of the stuff was, Adventure Man or and other competing items, the $6 Million Man. The packaging to me was as good as the toy. And some of the toys were broken, or just they weren't in his collection anymore because they didn't survive 20 years, but the boxes were still there. And I would look on the back of the box, and what I now know is the term cross-sell, and see some of these other characters that I'd never seen before, or the Bullet Man characters. I could go on and on, like it was basically like a little museum. And this is what I was fishing for. I mean, I keep this stuff. I keep the old cards.
Oh, wow.
And I always have, from learning that lesson. So when I started getting my things for Christmas, I kept the cards as well. Who knew that was going to pay off? So I'm going to flash forward to why you guys are probably familiar with some of my stuff. I'd had a relationship with an art director at Hasbro, and we'd worked on some Stretch Armstrong stuff that was the Netflix modern take on Stretch Armstrong. And so, I met my deadlines. I thought the stuff was good. So there was a trust. And I've been told, I've done some shows, tells at Hasbro, and pitched my stuff. And I, on stage, and I say, the art director said, well, he's really reliable. And I made a joke and said, well, I thought you hired me because I was good. I was trying to be funny. And she goes, oh, there's lots of good artists out there, but you got to meet deadlines. Well, then all of a sudden, everyone in the room is like the peanut gallery is like, oh, well, like the dog ate my homework, or this excuse. I'm like, oh my goodness, how serious that was, to not make your deadlines. And they were like, oh yeah, I got to call them all the time. So that was a learning lesson there. My first Hasbro presentation was listening to all these art directors and creative people like just tell their horror stories of people missing deadlines or just disappearing on them or not following instructions. So it's like, okay, so I had this good relationship with this art director that worked on the Stretch Armstrong stuff, and I had sent him some stuff, which again, I don't know if we'll have time to go through all of this, but I'd worked on some secondary stuff for Toy Biz as a freelancer for some of the ad agencies that did that. So I had some stuff in my portfolio that was Toy Biz branded. And he calls me out of the blue and says, would you be interested in recreating the Toy Biz Spider-Man card? And I'm like, I think I have some of the reference of it. I have, some Pantone colors. Like, yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. In a lot of projects, I don't always know what's happening. But he's like, okay, here's, what we're going to do. We're going to do, Spider-Man. And then there was a, discussion about Dr. Doom. And I thought, in my mind, I'm going, they're going to do a 6-figure nostalgic wave. They're going to do a Spider-Man card, an Iron Man card. In fact, that's not what happened, but it's what I thought was happening. So I recreate the card art, and mostly because either time or not record keeping or the age before the computers, the art wasn't available. Toy Biz to hand over to Hasbro in whatever year it was, 2021 and 2020, whenever we started working on this. So I meticulously recreated a lot of the elements, and we kind of made a few changes, made things our own. Big thing that Hasbro was big on is making sure that, if we can, that the figure matches the art on the front at least as best as we could. And this was something that I believed in because I had these when I was younger and I loved them, and finding out that a lot of these characters on the Spider-Man card were drawn by Neil Adams, and I believe his continuity studio. And I'm no Neil Adams, but I'm trying my best to make it look like what you got from Toy Biz. My goal was it sits seamlessly on your shelf. If you've got that 1993 4, 5, 6 Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, they'll sit together. It's not like a complete reimagining of it as other companies. They have G.I. Joe 2000 or some of the things that are the Netflix version of Masters of the Universe. I mean, they're all great, but I kind of wanted this to feel like this is a love letter to these Toy Biz cards from the 90s that were great. And the Toy Biz team, if you go back and look at that, like the Spider-Man card, the Fantastic, whoever had the nerve or the balls to put this stuff on hot pink, and the purples and stuff, and they're fantastic. So I'm going to say this with this stuff, not to take credit for away from this group at Toy Biz that did it. It was a small group, compared to a Hasbro or a Mattel. They were cranking stuff out, and it's great. I got nothing but respect for them. So when I do these things, and sometimes I've had to answer, people on Instagram like, nope, I'm recreating it because the files didn't exist. But there is an art to that, and I'm doing it, to what Hasbro wants, and it's also allowing these to have Hasbro can have these in their library, do promotions, put them on their Instagram, put it on their website, put it on, hand the files over to Big Bad Toy Store, whoever else is going to Entertainment Earth to make their little web banners like that in a digital format. So Hasbro now has the work that they can use. And then I do the 6 first wave Spider-Man. I think, well, that was so cool to do that. And then all of a sudden there's another wave, and then there's another wave. And, I don't know what the number is now that there's past 20. And along the way, I get the call, well, hey, can you do the Fantastic Four? Hey, can you do Iron Man? Absolutely. And then that leads to one of my favorite projects as well was this.
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
So the different art director, but the original Hasbro art director recommended me to this person, and it's like, Harry can do this. Apparently the artwork, again, it's time, and a lot of time has traveled, from whatever 1985 that this Ghostbusters stuff had been done. So the original art may be lost, may not be, again, digital, could have been sold. So they said, if we take some good pictures of some of this stuff, can you recreate it? And some of them I had. I had the flats where I said earlier that I was hoarding these things. I'm like, and so matching the colors and things like that. So it's, to be a team player, I try to help, with even like recreating the Fright features call out logo and getting the colors right on that. And again, the Ghostbusters for the same thing as the Spider-Man stuff, is that you can get that and fits right in your collection. And I really, like what Hasbro did, and I read things online, and there are people that are upset because, and with the Star Wars figures, that some of these figures like Yak Face is worth a lot of money, I guess, whatever. But to me, to get your hands on an Ecto-1, not everyone had that. It was an expensive piece, and there's enough differences on the packaging, and and Hasbro made sure that you're not getting the retro or the classic, the original. So there is a difference, but I mean, and they look great. They look great on shelves, and then the toy itself is great. I mean, I'll hold it up again. The star is the toy,
right?
And his features work, and and everyone, this as well as I do online, that his if you have this loose, chances are the tie's broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chances are a lot of it's broken. A lot of it.
I remember getting all of them for Christmas, plus the Ecto-1, all these. It was a Ghostbusters themed Christmas, and those were so near and dear to my heart. And when they were re-released those, I didn't get them, but now I know I will probably go back and get them.
Oh, you need to get them, Chris.
But
what are you doing?
Man, they nailed it. It's like it just brings me back to like the 8-9-year-old Toy.Father. So
yeah, and it's doing something. Like you could go to a vintage toy store, try to get that same toy out of box, mint in box, but you gotta pay a good amount of money. There's something special about finding like a Target, and you're like, oh, $18, $20. You get to have that brief moment of like feeling like a kid again.
Yeah,
it's a good service.
And Harry, you kind of like nailed it in terms of just like, this is a piece of art. And I think for every collector that gets retro packaging, at least like with this, or even some of the cassette stuff that you've done, everyone has that conundrum. And I'm in this conundrum right now. Do I open this or do I leave it right here? Because
that's a good question. Do you open it or do you buy two?
Or do you buy two?
Well, I think it was Ryan Ting. I'm not sure if it was Dan or Ryan on Instagram and social media. They would say one to stock, one to rock, but I'm not sure if that was about a shoe collection or the toys. But I had used the term one for play and one for display.
Ooh.
Not, but again, I'm being careful with that again, because going back to where I said I wasn't rich as a kid. I didn't get two. I didn't have one to open and one to keep in the box. I carefully opened it, kept the card, and I played with that figure. So if you don't have the resources, I don't want to come across as, oh yeah, you have to buy two. When I put that online, I respect you if you buy two, but if you only buy one, carefully remove it from the card, because again, the figures are the star. I have a couple of these. This guy's on my shelf. That's a solid figure. And this is a new sculpt. Again, I don't, the Psycho Man, I remember him from the comics when I was a kid. That's all new tooling, that Psycho Man. And so when I get assigned some of these projects for the retro stuff, and I look and, okay, yeah, maybe that thing is a repaint, but Hasbro took the time to do that Psycho Man. And if you're a Fantastic Four fan, you've got to have Psycho Man.
Yeah,
and so the same thing with the Spider-Man line. But yeah, so as you can see, I bust them open, and I don't want you guys to fight, but that's the bottom line.
Well, I mean, you can also brag that you have the original art too. So,
yeah,
that's very true.
It's not about bragging, but it's still cool when these things come in the mail. And another story that I shared briefly on my own Facebook, so there's a small circle that have seen it, but I had a toy art, a comic art buyer reach out to me via Twitter, and they were like, I see that you're doing this art, but again, the whole, Neil Adams did these, and it's like, I'm looking at it, and he goes, I can't tell the difference. Well, that means I did my job. But he's got the original line work for the Thing, which is this figure here, that the Toy Biz version. And he's like, he was looking to part with it, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't pay a lot of money for it. And I don't own comic book, or I don't collect that. I collect comic books, but, I know you know what I'm talking about. There's these people that buy original art, and that's their thing. It wasn't my thing, but I thought, okay, no pun intended, my thing. But if I wanted to own a piece of original art, I wouldn't mind owning something that was on a Toy Biz pack from the 90s. So I
That'd be
bought
really
it.
cool.
He mailed it to me, perfect condition. I peeked in to see that was in there, and I guess back in the day before computers, Toy Biz must have asked for a change, because the head is legit like a piece of paper with a new head, like glued on, a legit cut and paste.
Yeah.
Like that is so cool. So someday, I don't know if I'll get around to it, but my goal was I'm going to frame that with a print of my take on it, and then on the card Thing from '96 and on the card Thing from like my era, and maybe if I find the time to put that up there. But so I take this seriously when doing these, is that I'm paying honor to the artists that came before me, as well as the fans who are going to look at it. And if you held up the Iron Man card earlier, if you track down a Iron Man card from the '90s, you really can't tell the difference. I mean, a lot of time goes into it. You're obviously the card is a little bit bigger because we're dealing with a 6-inch figure with the original Toy Biz, and or the scale is different, but we tried to match the fonts and make everything feel like if you've got that Spider-Man on the left and you buy this on the right, you can still display that in a collection. Granted, some things have changed with small parts warnings and some Hasbro legals, and Hasbro did come to some compromises or ask for some favors. I'm not sure how to put it, but like that Marvel Comics logo that's got the dots, Hasbro had to ask specifically because that wasn't being used anymore. And it may not have worked if you would have put the current Marvel logo on it. So I'm thankful, and I was not involved in any of these discussions. I would find about later, but the fact that Marvel allowed Hasbro to use the retro Marvel Comics logo, and it makes it like there's a lot of things that they came to agreement on all of these cards. It's we don't have the Toy Biz logo obviously because it's a Hasbro product, but we made sure we kind of put it in the same spot. Even though they don't use the same age grading symbol, they're kind of like in the same spot. That these, I think they're great, not just because I worked on them, but because the whole package, the figure, the card stock, the character selection. If I wasn't working on these, I'd be buying them. I mean, they're that good as a unit. So again, my goal is that to have people kind of think the same way, that if you had these, and going back to when you said that being a kid and having the Ghostbusters, nostalgia hits hard now with a lot of people, and to go back to a simpler time when politics and certain things and paying the bills weren't your priority, and these resonate with people, and much like things that I don't work on, like I see Playmates do their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cards that they're retro vintage. They're beautiful, and they were hand done. My assumption is that Playmates probably held on to their stuff. There was no changing of company. Like where I go back to Kenner in Ohio to Hasbro in Rhode Island. Maybe some things got left behind. Maybe things got sold. So my guess is Playmates probably kept a lot of their stuff, or they archived it better, or I don't know. And I don't want to discredit any company that doesn't have their old files, because at the time they're just thinking, let's get this thing done and move on. And probably record keeping, if you go back and read the stories about the old Marvel Comics stuff where no one kept the artwork, they were just worried about hitting the deadlines and getting that comic out on a monthly basis or bi-monthly or whatever it was. And I'm sure that's how toys were back in the day. It's just like, we're getting it done. No one probably thought that something would be collectible, or they were made to be open. No one thought, these idiots are going to keep, Star Wars toys on the card for 50 years. And thank God that they did, because, that's I'm able to make a living because of I was one of those idiots. So I'm not saying anything bad about anyone that kept it on the card, but I couldn't imagine when I was a kid not opening it. But obviously someone had the thought to, like, yeah, I'm going to keep this on the card, and they do look great on the card. As I do like the VHS packaging, and they're another kind of design process in itself. But to see a Ghostbusters or Spider-Man or whoever it is on a card immediately takes you back to when you were a kid, because you couldn't wait to rip it open. And again, like I said, my goal is to if there's there's a new character, let's say Tombstone was done, or someone like a Jack-O-Lantern who wasn't in the 90s line, the art director, and I'm sure Marvel looks at it and stuff, and we're making sure that it's cohesive, and they all maintain, and they'll all sit on a shelf well together. So again, my choice is to do those characters that from the 90s, because that's what I'm more familiar with as well. But I like it when Hasbro throws in somebody like Jack-O-Lantern. I thought that was a great great figure in that assortment.
So when you do like a figure like Jack-O-Lantern and there wasn't a figure in the 90s, or I think that's what you said. And so do you go back, do you just go hit up Google, look back to what Jack-O-Lantern looked like in the 90s? Are you diving deep into comics again to be like, oh, I wonder how we moved and how we...
Well, usually Hasbro will give me some key pieces of reference, and doing my homework. I think this is the way it used to be. So, and I've kind of figured this out through working on the stuff, is that a lot of the poses on the Toy Biz Spider-Man, they're like, or if you go back and look at the 1970s Spider-Man Marvel / style guide, I'm not saying I have access to that, but if you look at a Slurpee cup from the 70s, there's a lot of the same poses that end up being used the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's Spider-Man swinging, Spider-Man with one arm out. There's a lot of, not say repetition, but there's standard Spider-Man poses that work. So, Hasbro and probably with input from Marvel give me, here are iconic covers or poses of Jack-O-Lantern, Tombstone, or whatever it is. So I have a starting point, but then my goal is to put him in a pose, or her in a pose, and then with the ink brushes and things to make it feel like that Neil Adams banged this out for Toy Company.
Nice.
So that's my goal, is to make it look like it's the same, the same studio, or it looking like it was done in the 90s without someone looking at it and saying, oh boy, this is dated. That, it feels like this, that Hasbro's paying that same studio from the 90s to do, the stuff today. And, why I'm looking off is like, I'm trying to think, so I apologize for not looking right at you. I'm kind of new at this, but, I want to tell these things, and I want to tell it right. And acknowledge the fact that there was people that designed these things back in the day. Now that doesn't mean I don't do new stuff. If you go to my Instagram, there's things I do for Monopoly that are brand new, not attached to any licensed character per se, or just recently there's something that I did for Batman for Monopoly. So right, basically whatever Hasbro calls me, or any toy company, whoever calls me, I'm delivering what they need, and that's why I get return calls. So I know you guys basically want to talk about the toy packs, which I love, but there's a lot of things that I've worked on, and I think it goes to where I think I'm more of a commercial artist. And I think back in the 80s, 90s, that's you called commercial artists, and they could be working on a cereal box, or they could work on a toy package. So I'm happy that I am. If you guys feel that I'm a toy artist, that's great, because if I was a kid and thought, oh, I'm going to grow up to be a toy artist, I'd have pinched myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done a lot of other things, and some of these other things, they're all learning experiences. So what I've learned from working with Nickelodeon and Disney over the years, and file setup and things, is like I apply that today. So I want to call myself a guru, but I know my way around Photoshop pretty well. And then with my age, I came in that time period where traditional art was phasing out and things were going under the computer. And when I say, my process is to make it look like it was done in the 90s with today's technology. So there's things that I look at I look at competitors, I look at other toy packaging, and there's a thing where, like, well, you can tell that was done in Photoshop, which everyone uses Photoshop, but there's once in a while there's a piece where you're like, wow, you can't tell if it's traditional or digital. And then I think hats off to that artist, because back in the day I was working with some stuff for Keebler, the elves, Ernie the elf, and I was asked to do a test, and they said, the gentleman that was doing it, and they want to move digital, can you make it look traditional, with a digital format? And a couple of the art directors or whatever that looked at it were like, they were surprised it was digital. Now looking back on it, I could tell it was digital, but at that time that was looked on as a plus, that you could still make it look like the old school stuff. And part of that was, this gentleman that did some of this Keebler stuff, like, well, you couldn't make color changes. Things were on layers, and he almost would have to redo things. So the computer has spoiled us, but it's also made it more efficient. So when I do these things for Hasbro, again, where I go back to, they like to make sure that the figure and the toy deco matches as good as possible. Sometimes the purple might need to shift, or a green might need to shift, and that's a lot easier using Photoshop. And anyone that's out there that's listening that knows Photoshop is like, yeah, duh, that's easy. But 20 years ago, that people weren't always using Photoshop. And my gut is that some of these Iron Man, Ghostbusters, these things were done traditionally. Someone drew this by hand, and they scanned it, or took there was a transparency delivered to the factory in China, and production boards, paste stuff. There's a whole lot of things that just don't happen anymore. But they happen in Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, but they're all old school design principles. And so I was fortunate that I learned old school design principles and then was introduced to the computer. So I feel like that, without being arrogant, that, like, that's a perfect combination for recreating retro cards, is that I understand how they were done, and then I have to think, okay, here's how they did it. How do I do that in a digital format? And for the most part, whether it's creating a new brush or overspraying something with an airbrush intentionally, so it has that hand done quality, or there's not that I called some of them out, but there's slight imperfections in some of these old pieces of art that make them beautiful. Brush strokes and things that you can see, that I try to maintain as best as I can. And you guys have them. I'm sure you've looked, just like we did earlier. You have a sample of the old one or the new one, and ultimately, with since we're in here talking about that, that's my goal, is to make it like and that's something I've responded to on Instagram. Someone said, that's just, they reprinted the Ecto One. Like, then I did my job. If you think that was just a reprint of the Ecto One on the box, or a Fright Features or Spider-Man, I did my job.
Yeah.
So,
well, Harry, man, like, until Chewy put up that the side by side, I never actually did the deep dive in, like, looking at both, because every single retro card, especially in the Spider-Man line, has always just felt exactly like something from the 90s in my childhood. But like, I have so many questions, like, brewing. But you did touch recently on when you said that you were like a brand, like a commercial artist, right? And it was so interesting because obviously, like, I discovered your work through the action figures, but then in, like, doing a little deep dive, trying to figure out what else you've worked on out there, I was so excited to know how much Harry Moore art I have in my house. Like this, I was like, wait, really? And then I went back in. I'm like, there it is, right there, illustrations by Harry Moore. Like, how cool is that?
Well, yeah, that's a good example of what I was saying earlier. I don't say this the right way. Working with Nickelodeon, learning stuff from them, and learning from Disney is that if you look at that book, that's the Paw Patrol standard look. That's not my take on Paw Patrol. So that again lends itself well. So when I'm asked to recreate, I'm able to match a style. It's not like tracing or whatever it is, and even though a lot of us, we all learn as kids to draw by tracing, but there's an eye, or almost like if Lady Gaga does a cover of a Madonna song, she puts her own spin on it to a degree, but there's still an art to that. So that's ones I'm shocked that. Well, I'm not shocked that you found it, but that, yes, as a commercial artist, if Nickelodeon called me and said, "Hey, Harry, you want to do some Paw Patrol stuff?" I've got to think of it the same way. They give me a style guide and things to look at, but I have to really look at it and study it as if you were studying for a test or whatever. And like, I see how they're doing it now. How do I make it happen? So a lot of those things along the way with books like that, with SpongeBob and with Paw Patrol, have prepared me better for where I'm going to say harder stuff, like a Ghostbusters. One of the toughest things I did was the Ghost Rider card with the big skull and things, and try, because there was not a lot of trap lines or ink lines the way the Spider-Man stuff has it. That was all like freehand airbrushing and approaching it like an old school airbrush artist with making masks and frisket and using my Wacom pen and spraying and release and then move it, trying to make it feel like real airbrush. And I was happy with that one. Again, an old story was I was in a meeting at Toy Biz and I saw that on the wall before it had been released, and I was in a meeting for something else there. I'm like, these people are just so good, like just one after another. Like, obviously I think probably I had to sign something, not talk about it when I got out of there. And I didn't tell people I was very young. And when I got in with some of these agencies that were working for Toy Biz or Tyco and some of these things that were the New Jersey, New York area, I wasn't a great artist, but I was very enthusiastic. I was willing to learn. But why I say I got in some of these meetings is some of these ad agencies were getting work from Toy Biz, but they didn't know the characters. And I'm not disparaging any of them in some way, but like they knew Spider-Man, but they may not have known, the High Evolutionary or Adam Warlock. So when I'm sitting in a meeting and someone from Toy Biz is mentioning these characters, I'm going to say, "Yep, okay, yeah, I know. Well, he could do this, or maybe the gems or certain things." So that's why I was brought along for the ride by some of these people. And then I worked at. I got to be a better artist over the years. But yeah, I've got stories that probably people have forgotten. That, oh yeah, he was in that meeting, and not that I was anybody important, but I got to see some of the early workings of Toy Biz, and just seeing some of those cards on the wall. And there was other people in there that were showing prototypes and figures, and like I didn't care. I just want to see those card backs on the wall that the art director from Toy Biz was putting up on the wall. And here's what's coming out next. It's just, and I think it was just for the most part one art director that was like overseeing all of it. And maybe they did use outside, ad agency and stuff, but there was one person that was making sure everything kind of like worked. Now today, you have style guides and things like that, but there was no style guide for the Ghost Rider card. The art director at Toy Biz just came up with it, and when I say these people, it's not that I do or don't want to say their names. I'm going to go on record that I've asked from Hasbro to say certain names, and I'm told, I can't say my art director's name and things like that. So I've been asked, don't, you can say you work with an art director on Ghostbusters, but I'm not allowed to say their names. But there's a lot of great people, beyond, me that have got these things, whether it's the original Toy Biz team or the guy who took the phone call to say, "Hey, Harry, you're going to do the Spider-Man cards," to the marketing people. which you know, you guys have had them on, so I'm more comfortable saying, you know, Dan and Ryan. Everyone knows who they are. They're great ambassadors for the brand, but you know, they're also on board. They like what I do. They could very easily say, you know, this guy's just, this isn't it. You know, so I'm very thankful at all. You know, I've got to work with a lot of people to get to this point.
Oh man, I love this ride, man. And you know what? I'm already seeing that we have a lot of excellent questions from our chat. So chat, thank you guys again for having wonderful conversations. We've been keeping an eye on it. So yeah, well, why don't we jump in, because we have 7 questions already that you've starred. Who's been starring? Who's doing a great job keeping track?
So like the chat is Harry, the chat is probably the best thing about the show. Everyone in the chat, your participation is just as important to us in the show. Please keep on putting these questions in. We'll keep starring them. But let's start off with, as Yimbo was saying, some of these questions. Jody asks, what was your favorite project to work on?
That there's too many to mention, because that'd be, you know, like telling one of your kids you don't like them. But I'm going to say that what ties in, you know, and with a lot of this is being tried to do those first 6 Spider-Man retro cards, because if I don't get that job, or if I do it wrong, I'm not doing Ghostbusters, I'm not doing Iron Man, I'm not doing the VHS boxes. So I think that might be one of the most important things. But there's other projects that led to that as well. So it all ties in, just like you busted out the Paw Patrol Easy to Read book. It's, you know, there's, you know, connect the dots, you know. So, but yeah, as far as and that might be the one that I get the most excited when it's in my inbox. And this is tough. I don't want anyone, I don't know who's listening, but I don't want any of my other art directors or clients to be like, that jerk just keeps plugging the Spider-Man stuff. But when I get the call,
they're not listening here.
Well, I'm going to say this: they may or may not be listening right now, but Hasbro does listen. So a lot of those characters that are on the wish list, you know, going back a couple years ago, I'm not talking about the future, but there was a couple of characters like, when are you going to do this guy? When are you going to do this guy? And whether it's retro or Marvel Legends in general, and I don't know, you know, what some of the other Marvel Legends categories are, but Hasbro does listen. And you can go back and look at it, you know, some of these characters through, you know, whether it's the regular Marvel Legends assortment or the retro cards, that they've gotten around to doing it. I think they do listen. So and what I mean that is they do listen to the fans. So
yeah, not this show.
Oh, we were just referring to our show. But I do think Dan listens. He seemed friendly enough to our show. How dare you?
Sorry, Dan. Thanks, Harry. Another question from Old Grumpy Nerd. How long your creation process and projects normally take?
Everyone is different. I just did a Hasbro project that was about a week. I've worked on things that, you know, take a month. I also do help with style guide work for DreamWorks or Nickelodeon, and those can be long-term projects with you know, 20 characters for a guide. And again, I might be just doing part of them. The guide might have 40 characters, and you know, I'm not doing all 40. I'm you know, doing 15 or 20 or whatever it is to get them to the finish line. So every project is different. So I take on small projects like, oh, that wasn't too bad, you know, that took a week or so. But then I've got the projects where they're a couple of months. And my toughest project right now is I'm doing the children's books for the Philly Fanatic. The mascot,
yes, I want to talk to you about this.
And that's about 90 days, and that's something that eats up a lot of my calendar. And it doesn't stop me from doing other things, but it's forced me to get up very early and work very late. But there's just, like with every other project, there's things where people are like, oh, well, you booked or you're working on this. There's downtime with approvals. So even, let's say I do a retro Spider-Man card, Hasbro's got to look at it. Marvel's going to look at, and when I say Hasbro, you know, the toy team is going to look at it. it kind of fits with what they're going with the toy itself. So while they're looking at it, and then while they're sending it to Marvel, I've got time to work on other things. So it's like the wheel keeps on moving. But yeah, that the one that takes the longest. So you have a kind of a grade from, something a toy box may take a week, and I may get changes and have to revise and fix a few things next week. But like a children's book, that could take 60 to 90 days, and they spread it out. They have good deadlines with those, and breaking it down into roughs and then the sketch and then the ink and then the color. If that's the process that I have to do, but those can take the longest. But at the end of the day, they're fun. Like when you have a book, as much as having an action figure box in your hand is cool, it's like having a book. And then, and I'm not, lobbying for anything, but in the children's books, my name is in it. That's not always the case with toys, but I'm going to defend that. And this may not be popular. I'm going to defend the toy industry because there's so many people that take a look. I mean, if I'm drawing something, may have an artist that's appear like I'm really having a hard time with his elbow or his forehead or whatever it is, and they may point me in the right direction or help me out. I have shown my kids stuff, and they've drawn on top of my, or like, no, or some of these books, well, the kitchen should be this color. I'm like, okay. And a lot of the stuff I bounce it up, not proprietary or anything like that, but, I'll bounce stuff off of people that like, what do you think of this color? And in my little circle, like, does this look good? And having other people's input. So then with that being said, there's someone who sculpts the toy. There's marketing people. There's to put credits on the back of the toy box would probably fill the box. Mm-hmm. In the toy industry, because there's someone from the top of the food chain to the bottom, and they're all as important. And then there's a sculptor, there's probably a structural engineer with some of these things. There's there's people that paint the prototypes. There's just so many people that may touch a toy. I just thought of this right now. Maybe you put a QR code on it, takes you to a website, and then you can see all those credits. But again, I'm not advocating for anything, but that's, why I do like to keep my do a children's book or two every year, because I do, have my name in it. And then that's something where, like you guys were all talking about your kids earlier, my kids can go to school with a book that's got Dad's name in it. And that, and that it helps, your kid not get bullied when your dad draws SpongeBob. And then that also helps is that the kids get free SpongeBob stuff from samples. And that's what, Dad, it's this person's birthday. Why didn't you tell me? Here, take this, wrap it up. I grab something out of the office and say, wrap it up and go. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like the children's books, but yeah, when your last question, yeah, they can take a long time.
Well,
there are two questions that are similar.
Ooh, is it Josh and Trevor?
I was gonna say no, Messi and Cal.
Oh, okay. Because Josh and Trevor also asked very similar ones, and I want to combine the two of them as well. But no, do you? I thought we were like totally synced, Chris. We were.
I know we are, but just meshing two different questions.
Got it.
Messi asked, "What's a character you haven't done but hoping to do to do the art?" And then Cal the collector asks, "Anyone you're looking forward to recreating?"
There's a lot. I don't want to give anything away because there's a lot that I would like to work on. I'm going to go back to something. If you last year, the year before, there was a Comic-Con panel with the Hasbro group, and Jesse from Marvel said how much he loved this line, and we might have to do all of them, and it's like that's insane. But I would love to see them go deep into this. So I held up earlier the Psycho Man, to think that I would get a chance to work on him, because for the most part, and going back to the 90s when you bought packs, there's 6 Spider-Mans and 1 villain, and I'm exaggerating with the pack out, but or the Iron Man wave, there's a lot of Iron Mans, but man, when you get that one character that's almost like that Chase character, or the She-Hulk in this new Iron Man wave, that it's not a mess of which again, I love all the Iron Man figures, but that would be, I would love to see that kind of stuff continue. Is the deep reaches and like a perfect example is the She-Hulk, because I don't want to say a character that I want, because I have a list, but I don't want to see on the internet tomorrow that, well, Harry Moore said character X, and that's the character that people are going to assume that's in the next retro wave or whatever it is, because I have no say in what gets done. And but yeah, I love them all, but when I do get them, and like I said, I get this assortment and I'm excited. I'm like, oh, there's always one in the wave that's like, wow. And that would have been for this, because I'm just thinking now, the last one would have been She-Hulk. I'm like, hey, that's cool that they put that She-Hulk in the Iron Man line. It works because it's still the 90s. When I did the art, make it look like as if she was on the back of a Toy Biz card, trying to emulate the style of the little headshots in the Toy Biz cards. And then when I saw Psycho Man in the Fantastic Four line, because when I get called to do that, you figure there's the Human Torch, there's the Thing, and we'd already done Doctor Doom exclusive, but then to see Psycho Man and High Evolutionary, that's what I get excited about. So I'm answering it in a roundabout, but so yes, I want to work on all of them, but I get excited when there's the character that is the unexpected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, that She-Hulk was definitely the one out of that retro wave. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. They're doing that. Same with this Psycho Man too. What a great answer. That's great. And it was exclusively on Toy Daddies, guys. He told us right here.
So now, Chris, if you go to Trevor's question.
Hold on. Can I ask this one question?
Yeah.
By Josh Brown.
Segue.
Favorite pup, and why is it Marshall?
It's not.
It's not. It's not for me either.
It's
Mine's Sky.
All right.
I had a dog named Chase. He was my favorite dog, and I didn't name him after the Paw Patrol. I named him after the Phillies baseball player. But when I started working on the Paw Patrol, one of them was named Chase. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? I already have a dog named Chase. So Chase became my favorite. But I don't dislike any of them. I like Rubble. And I'm too old to be telling you the names of Paw Patrol. So we're going to move on.
No, I love this. I love this. Wow.
That's all right. We're all in the weeds with Paw Patrol. We're all good here.
Yeah. But why don't you go into the 1-6 and Josh Brown?
Yeah, so the two questions, if we look at Sir Trevor's first, do you like the challenge of trying to match a style or having free reign to do your own thing? And then I do feel like this segues nicely into Josh Brown, where it's how much free reign do you have within the structure of the style you are working with? For instance, posing, and does Hasbro have a lot of notes? So I feel like they're kind of similar in how you can kind of go about it. But yeah, do you have a preference? Because like what I noticed in looking at the variety of stuff that you've done that I didn't realize, especially in the toy space, like I'm thinking of the Marvel, the little Marvel characters, and then the micro. What was it called? What was it? The Marvel Superhero Squad. That's right. But like that artwork, when you look across, I can see a Harry Moore similarity. Again, retroactively, like just realizing now that is your work all over the place. So I could see now a common thread of your style, but obviously in the in that case, how you've been reimagining stuff. So yeah, what do you have a preference for, or is it just you just love drawing, or
like how does the Superhero Squad? I'm going to tell the story on that was I think Hasbro was doing Galactic Heroes first, so there was a Star Wars line before Superhero Squad, and there was an agency or group or an artist, I'm not sure, but Hasbro was making a lot of these characters. I think Transformers, Star Wars, Marvel, there was a lot coming out at once. This brand was very successful. So I was asked to do a test for Superhero Squad, and with that, they would give me the artwork that was I'm assuming was used for the toy, like this, like control drawings or whatever it was. This a guy named Roger would do those. So they'd give me sculpts, different views. So they gave me a lot of good reference. But what they were looking for was they gave me this vendor sample, like, can you match this? So I think the first wave of Superhero Squad, I can't remember who was in the first wave, but the first 5 were by another group or another artist, and so I did everyone after that. But I was told it was, I'll never forget doing that. It was Annihilus, if that's how you say his name right, was in a pack with Johnny Storm.
Perfect.
And that was my test. And I was like, wow. And they said, we want a little bit Disney, because at the time, I think, I'd just come off from working at Disney. And they're like, we want these to resonate with kids. And some of the things that they had shown me that some other artists had tested were big 4-headed kids. There wasn't a sweet appeal to them. So there was a look that Hasbro was looking for that I had to kind of simulate what was already happening, and then bring a little bit more. I think the term was sweetness, is because there was an age group that he was looking for, and they're like, we knew you've done some of the Disney characters with big eyes and highlights, and there are certain things they were looking for. So I did that test. They're like, yeah, you're it. So from that point on, I was working on Superhero Squad, but someone else worked on like Robot Heroes and Transformers and the Galactic Heroes. And then later on down the road, you showed, I think that was where it evolved into Play School Heroes or something like that, and they got a different articulation. I mean, I was on that for a long time, and again, I'm not going to say no if they said, okay, can you help us with the Star Wars stuff? But that was one where Hasbro kind of like asked me to take something that was kind of already going on and expand on it and push it. Then going back to where the question earlier was, someone said, do you like working your own style or emulating? And I just did, I can't say what it is, but I just legit turned something in where I was emulating something, at least try to keep it in a vein of something that already existed. And it's a challenge, but I like that challenge. Whereas if like, okay, do your own thing. And I don't want to say that this and sound snarky, but doing my own thing sometimes is easier because there's nothing to judge it against. It's like, okay, it looks good. All right, let's roll with it. But it is harder. And where I cut my teeth was figuring out how to do the Paw Patrol, the SpongeBob characters, and then leading up to the Marvel retro cards and make it look like it's that time period, and then not having it look like it's dated. Again, going back to throwing out the Neil Adams and the Continuity Studios that were doing these, and then the eye that the art directors at Toy Biz had, that good art is good art, even if it's from 1990. So, and there's, won't point fingers, but there's probably a lot of bad toy art from the 90s and bad toy art today. But I think that's the value of having a good art director that selects a good artist and has an eye for it. And, and I've worked with a lot of good art directors, and, nothing worse than, and this happens to me, then one of those art directors calls me and says, Harry, are you busy? And like, why? Well, we had another artist work on this and it's not quite where, so I feel like the second date to the prom, but it's like, okay, you trust me enough to kind of fix this and hit the style you want, but it is harder to kind of to let's say emulate or catch someone else's style, because it's not natural to me. But then with things like the Marvel things, the Superhero Squad, I got better at it. I got better at the Paw Patrol. Like the first SpongeBob book I did, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. But it did get easier. Unless I'm not trying to say, oh, it's so easy, but you just like anything. If the first time you try something different, like you're going to learn how to cook. I'm sure your first meal is horrible, but then you get better at it. I'm no cook, but I'm sure Gordon Ramsay's first meal was garbage. But it's probably he learned quite well. But that's my thing. But I like that better. I like better. I would rather, if I had a choice between two projects and someone said, well, we can give you one where you're going to do the retro Tarzan line, and there's no such thing, so I'm not touching anything that someone's going to think, or they're like, we want you to come up with a new Jungle Man. I'd rather do the retro. For one, there's a nostalgia to Tarzan to a degree, and it's probably a box from the 60s. So much like the nostalgia hits you guys when you buy it, anytime that I can have an excuse to play in the past is I love it.
Yeah.
You heard it first. Harry's working on the new Jungle Man. We have Solo Sinner. He's asking, has AI affected the nature of your work you're engaged with? Has it hindered or helped your creative flow?
That's a good question. And I didn't think that would ever come up, but I'm going to say something. I don't know that it's affected me. I read a lot of things on LinkedIn. There's a lot of artists that are really against it. Even one post where an artist was like, I'm not posting anything on social because I think it's being stolen. Um, I don't know how it exactly works. I'm not a fan of it if that is how it works. And I'm assuming that's part of the Hollywood actors went on strike was to kind of fight that kind of stuff, which, I guess Harrison Ford doesn't want his likeness or voice being used 50 years from now without compensation.
Right.
So if that's how it works, I'm definitely against it. But for me, like if I'm doing something that's licensed, you know, it's obvious if it's AI did it or whatever. So and I've seen some things on AI, and I cringe sometimes when I see people that are obviously, let's say people, but there's a local radio station here. They just everything they use is like it's AI, and you can tell it. And it's great when you see from the neck up, but man, when there's hands or feet, there's some weird stuff going on. But AI will probably get better, I guess. I think about it, but I don't worry about it. But I want to say this: that one of my clients, I'm not going to, I probably shouldn't say who, but in January, I was asked to sign a new contract. And okay, not a big deal, but I read it, and one of the lines in there was that you will not use AI to generate this artwork. I was like, good, that was like that was pretty cool, and it's a, it wasn't a toy company, but it's an entertainment company that's very big, and I'm like, wow, they put that in there. That basically I can't remember it, but and I'm not, so don't quote me exactly, but the line was something along the lines of, "You are not using AI to generate this artwork for us," and this would be like for a style guide, and this stuff would be used on T-shirts, hats, mugs, and I'm like, I really respected that. So as I sat here at the beginning and said, I don't completely understand how AI is grabbing assets. I mean, I've got an idea in the back of my mind, but I don't want to go into it and sound stupid. If it's how I suspect that it's, basically storing stuff from whatever we're posting online and mashing it together, that's not cool. Or if it's learning, I mean, I guess I really don't know, but I really respect out of this one client that asked me to read in January that there was a new contract that they were sending out to all their creatives, and I read that line and like, wow. And so I don't know if the others will feel the same way. And I feel that, if you're using AI, I guess, for concepting or inspiration, maybe that's not so bad. But I've seen, if the truth is that it's grabbing other people's, work to create an end product, and that's not cool. But so that's all I can say about it. It hasn't affected me yet. I hope not. I hope some of the other clients that I have think about that, and maybe that becomes the industry norm that we don't use AI on final product, maybe for concepting, and that could affect me because there's some things that I do that are concepts for toys and games that don't go anywhere. It's just I'm just being paid to do concepts. I think that could hurt me, and I think that could hurt the industry if concepting is just all done with someone who can't draw or doesn't draw or just thinks that they can put in a couple of prompts and say, well, here's my new game, and it's good enough to pitch, and maybe it is good enough to pitch and it will save time, but that does probably going to take money out of the pockets of creatives. And then what happens if then the vice president of the company just decides, well, I don't need an art department, I'll just type in the prompts, and that's how we're getting art. I don't think we're there yet, but it's come a long way pretty quick.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's something, honestly, Harry, that has come up even in our toy photography. Because each week, the reason that we do this show is that over on the ToyPic community on Instagram, a number of pictures get posted every week, and it's voted on, in terms of the likes and votes and reach. And there's a top 10. And we've had those conversations here before, too. And there is no answer because this is all coming at us so fast and furious. But yeah, the Toy Daddies side with humanity always. The human effort and the humanity behind everything that we do. So but yeah, that's we've even talked about percentages that are like acceptable in terms of our photography, like how much can be AI again, there's no official rules, but even those conversations have happened here.
Wade Create asks, what, as an artist, which representation of Spider-Man in the comics is your favorite design?
Steve Ditko.
The
Steve Ditko Spider-Man, and you guys are hitting me with all kinds of stuff. I love it. And that you're giving me the time. And I, someone who works by themselves, I have these conversations with myself, and I'm thinking, I'm going to now say it in front of everyone. Think about Steve Ditko and some of the costumes. The Blue Beetle costume is amazing costume. The Spider-Man costume is amazing costume. Darn near every Spider-Man villain from the first 20 books, those costumes are amazing. The Captain Atom, when he redid that for Charlton, Kraven the Hunter. I'm trying to think. There's the Iron Man, red and yellow, I believe, is Steve Ditko. So before, there was nothing against Jack Kirby. He's still the king of comics, but Iron Man was that clunky, tin can kind of armor. And at some points, I don't know if Steve was doing a fill-in or just did a cover, but Ditko did that yellow and red armor that became iconic. I mean, the dude was just doing these amazing, whether he was, all the comic work he did, that's amazing. But it's like, and I'm not taking it because I'm part of this, not taking anything against any new creators, but at some point, Steve Ditko had to sit down there and figure out what Spider-Man looked like, the webbing and all that. Like, that's an insane costume. And then to draw that with all the webbing and in that time in the 60s when everything is about cranking out, get the deadlines done, and as this guy was putting all these webs on, and then of course you get into the 90s and Todd McFarlane just took it like to the insanity, and it was great. But Ditko, his costume work, and that's part of why I love his work, is his costume work was maybe the best. If because you've got Superman. I don't think that there's any creator that has that run of great costumes. Kirby stuff is great, but all four of the Fantastic Four had the same suit. Thor was good, but when you stack it up against the volume of good, like a band like the Rolling Stones or Beatles banging out hits, Steve Ditko's costumes, the Creeper in the 70s was, that was Ditko could have just been a we know that's not how it's going to be, but I mean, Ditko's just designs are millions of dollars, and just the design itself before he even opened page one and started drawing it. And then of course, like from what I remember, Ditko was from the Philly area, something like that at one point. So I'm like, wow, this is so cool to hear that this guy was, that some of the Spider-Man books that he drew were the early ones, he was mailing them from Philadelphia to New York. So I don't know anything about him as a person. We've all read the stuff online, but his costumes and you, like I said, that first 20 issues of Spider-Man, Electro, the Lizard, the Chameleon, Mysterio, you line them all up. Paw Patrol. There's a film. They kind of feel like a formula to a degree. There's some armor and a dog, whatever. But to have those 20 villains for the first 20, 30 issues of Spider-Man, and they're still the founding foundation for the movie villains. Even though they may have to modify the costumes, I guess, to a degree, but the best example, honestly, is these action figures. You buy any Marvel Legends with the Mysterio with the fish dome, Electro with the ridiculous yellow lightning bolt mask. It works on these action figures. They look great, whether it's the retro or it's the mainline Marvel Legends. I mean, the stuff, the X-Men '97 stuff looks great. Those figures are great. And the card, the packaging on that is great. And those figures, again, another one of those things. I didn't work on it. I had the opportunity and there was a discussion, but that's a story for another day. But they're great. I mean, they are and the show itself was great. And you know, and I don't think Ditko had anything to do with those costumes. And I'm trying to think, you know, there were some great costumes. But anyway, going back, yeah, Ditko, the Spider-Man is hands down Ditko. I respect Romita and everybody that came after Ditko. That you know that was, I mean, because Ditko was before my time. This was me doing, you know, money and buying comic books. Is the only reason I know about Steve Ditko, or comic book stores and finding this stuff out. But yeah, just to as an adult, sit back and think this guy came up with all these costumes, and they're all brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, you speak of Ditko, you speak of all the concept designs that he have. I thought I would introduce you to some of my creative artistic things that I've done as well. So I wanted to pitch you something, and this is something that I do typically with everyone. I've done it with Dan Yoon, I've done it with Emily, and they've all thought my ideas have been fantastic. But I wanted to see what you thought as in terms of your artistic eye, your professional lens. So when I was 9 years old, I created my own comic book. I drew a lot. I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I did it for fun. And I designed what a character named Laserman. Now, let me pitch you the idea of Laserman. So there was thank you, single shot. So there is just imagine there's a rare meteorite called Laserite. It is coming down onto Earth, and it's a rare power source. And so there's a military combatant that is trying to harness the power of Laserite, and they make a containment suit. While this is happening, there is a farm far off near this base, owned by a very wealthy dairy conglomerate, dairy CEO conglomerate, and his son, his name is Larry Laserman. And unbeknownst to Larry, he's working on this farm, and let's say there was a tragic accident, and him and his cow friend need a heart transplant. And on that very night, they're getting the heart transplant. The meteorites start to fall, and they're affected by the Laserite. And yet, somehow, he gets his hands on this containment suit and harnesses the power of Laserman. So I want to show you, it's been 30 years later where I designed Laserman, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to design my own Laserman in an action figure. Why are we laughing?
I'm ready.
I'm not laughing.
Here we
I
go.
muted myself. I'm good.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
here is Laserman. He may look a little familiar. Yeah?
Totally not a lawsuit.
None, right?
Right.
Mr. Stevie didn't think so. Anyway, so what's great about Laserman are his wealth of characters. I want to say character. I don't want to say villains. There are different characters. I'm trying to work kind of his lore. We have a bunch of different characters. This one was actually created by one of the ToyPic community, Diggs Figs. He sent this to me. His name is Sputterman. And his origin story was he worked in the potato field, and he skipped work the night of the laser night falling, and he didn't want to admit that to anyone, so he pretends that he has powers and he just throws potatoes. That's him.
So there's a food theme. He fights the dairy conglomerate.
It all took place on a farm. Okay, so this is all farm. Okay,
I like where Harry's going with that.
Yes,
there has to be a centralized story leading up to something. So I like where that was going.
This is Reflect Sean. Okay,
self-explanatory. Got it.
We got. We're working this name for this guy. His name is Fecal Matter.
Had a different name, but now we're monetized and we can't use that name anymore.
Yeah, we can't.
Well, that explains why the S was crossed out.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
We have Superman being offended.
We have this guy. He's one of my favorites. Hey Man. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not being sued by just one company. It's two.
Nah.
There's a Bowie song that starts "Hey Man." That should be the
Yes,
theme
that
song
should
if
be
you make a movie.
There's also a song from It's Always Sunny in Philly. Hey Man.
Hey Man.
That's right.
And so then one of his best friends / like main villains is this guy, Mooterin, the divine bovine. Speaking to you? No?
Why not Holy Cow? If it's the divine bovine.
Oh.
Holy cow, it's the divine. We're putting that in the notes, everyone.
By the way, while you
that's a freebie for you, Chris.
Yeah, put that in the notes. I love old grumpy nerds comment. Harry considered coming back minutes ago. ...
And then
Josh Brown. Harry is thinking about having internet issues.
And then this last one, you may recognize him. He may be on the show. We like to call him Yimboner. Like this guy, it's arm day every day.
That's the only one we won't get sued for. There we go.
Mooterin, no. Right? I don't think Mooterin.
Yeah, that's right.
Close. So each couple of months, I try to knock out a new Laserman character.
You build the rogues gallery a little bit at a time, just like Steve Ditko did.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it back.
Well, Larry Laserman sounds like a character that could have been written by Stanley Lieber.
Yes.
Peter Parker, Reed Richards.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the whole point.
Yeah. You were definitely influenced. Just you have to. My only advice is you were influenced. Avoid the lawsuit. That's you're on a fine line of influence and lawsuit.
Well, this brings us to a great segue because we really want to kind of design our own, right? No Chewing. Are you going to pull this up?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, do it up. So we're designing our own character on our own buck. This is going to be the retro card. This is conceptual design for our packaging.
Not AI either.
Not AI.
I can just say I'm happy we make no money off of any of this yet, or at all. Have any considerations of any money associated with this?
Well, yeah, I've lost money. So that's where we are. That's where we are with Laserman, Harry.
I'm more concerned that how you got that card from my computer. Like, did you have access to, or did Ryan give you that file? Like, because I've seen that before.
Yep. It's highly unofficial.
Well, I appreciate you running through my pitch, but so I guess my question is, does it have a chance, Harry?
Listen, you had Mr. Steve on. You had, I guess you had Dan on.
We had Emily Bader.
Okay, you're asking someone who's a contract vendor. If Mr. Steve didn't jump on it,
well,
I can't.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
okay. Oh, he was interested.
They talk about it apparently at Hasbro, and by talk about it, I mean they say, "Oh, you're going on Toy Daddies. Watch out for the Laserman pitch."
No one warned me.
You're in the club, Harry. You're in a super secret society now. That's
I'll
not
talk
so secret.
to them about it at Comic-Con. I'll ask them which one, if they had a choice, that they would go with. Well, obviously, now I'm going to fight for Holy Cow.
I love Holy Cow. That's a good one.
I think Holy Cow, the Mooterin, is honestly the best of the bunch.
We have, like I said, we have great fans and great people in the ToyPic community. I don't want to call them fans; they're just great people in the ToyPic community. And Wade Crate made this for me and put this in the packaging, did everything, and then even put like the little blurb on the back about Larry Laserman, the son of a wealthy dairy CEO.
I like Josh Brown's comment. I just want to bring this up. Not AI, MS Paint. That's a t-shirt.
That's good. That's good.
Does MS still exist? Like, does it still? I don't know. Like,
that's a really good
that was
question.
A funny comment, but
I mean, MS Paint was like one of the very first things on my very first computer that I ever used. Oh man,
there is a Paint app on my PC, but it's not MS Paint.
Well, no, I had an Apple when I did that.
Yeah. You can draw in the Notes app. So
you can?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Harry, thanks a lot for sitting through that one. That was
well, the segue was good, and I guess I set myself up because you jumped on my love of Steve Ditko, and your whole assortment. They wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Steve Ditko.
I will take this compliment.
Okay. Hey, if you're going to be inspired by someone, and you will admit that it was Steve Ditko, I have no problem with you. You know, that's.
I will admit it was Steve Ditko
guy.
No. Anyway, well, hey, highly articulated asks, will you have a Laserman table at LegionCon? Probably not, but we'll probably do something in the lounge of LegionCon.
We might have stickers if you want a free, no money involved sticker.
Yeah, we'll pass out a sticker. Harry, in terms of just going back to some of your art, you had talked about deadlines, and I think we talked to Agnes Garboska, and she had told us the most important thing about an artist is you need to hit your deadlines. Now, it seemed like you learned that early, or never missed a deadline, or I'm just assuming. But would you agree that's probably one of the most important pieces of being a reliable artist for any type of company?
Yes, and the two stories I'll tell you that kind of backed that up was one when I was trying to pitch myself at Hasbro to get more work and introduce myself to more art directors, and the art director that was kind of backing me after I did my show and tell pony show, whatever, said, oh, and he's really good at deadlines. And I made the joke, oh, well, I thought you used me because I was good. And she's like, oh, we've got lots of good artists, but they can't make deadlines. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but that's the one thing that can get the door closed on you real quick, or not get the return call. And I think, no one's perfect. Things happen. I think Hasbro, in most part, these people that I work with are forgiving, and if they like someone, they'll give them a second chance. But I'm talking about, your long-term reputation. The second, and I kind of told this story earlier, but this is a new one, and this is where it's a good piece of advice for any artist: communication. When I worked at Disney, so when you said, I've never missed deadlines, I've missed deadlines, and sometimes it's been my fault. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're changing direction, and they're accommodating. And I learned this from a gentleman that was let's say an art director, but a sourcing manager at Disney. He said, Harry, if you're going to be late, let me know. He goes, we can possibly look at shifting things. He goes, what I don't want to have is it's due on Friday and I don't hear from you, and I've got to call you, and I'm not getting a return call, and I'm starting to work, because then I got to tell my boss, where is this? He goes, if you call me Tuesday and say, Joe, I'm going to need another couple of days, he goes, I'll help make that happen for you, but communicate. So when I said the story earlier about the Hasbro people said, oh, well, he misses deadlines, yada yada, that it's communication, because there's no artist that's ever not everyone's missed a deadline. Life happens, but even if it's your dog legit ate your homework, or the dog legit ate my Wacom tablet, my USB cord, or I had no power for a few days because of a hurricane. I kind of communicate that. So that's that's the thing. If there's any young artist or whatever listening, or they go back and listen to this later, is that communicate. And I think that's a key in anything. If you're going to be late for work, or you're going to, have an assignment that's late, you tell that person you're doing it for as early as you can. Like, don't wait till the last minute. Like, I'm going to miss the deadline, and the deadline is tomorrow. Get on the phone as soon as you can, and they'll respect that your honesty is like, look, this was harder than I thought. My kid was sick, or like I said, my internet was down for 2 days, and you're honest of it far enough in advance. So that's the way around it. If you know that you're going to miss that deadline, give that art director the heads up. Don't, I guess the term now would be ghost them.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you find that there are a lot of art directors that say, like, just tell me up front if you can't make the deadline?
Yes. Yeah. There, in this one project I worked on this week, it was a rush job, and I can think about it, in a few minutes and know what I'm going on. And very rarely, and if it is, it's when I'm doing a children's book, when I have to say, no, I can't hit this. And it hasn't happened too much recently where someone has hit me with something that's really a rush. And that's usually when there might be pushback on my part, was when it's a rush. But if there's a standard deadline, and then with some of the, the Iron Man stuff you're saying, and I don't think this is a secret, the stuff is worked on months in advance. I think I was working on that Iron Man wave like October of last year.
Oh, wow.
There's a long production time,
Makes sense.
time to create these things. So there is some flexibility. So very rarely do I get hit with something that's, when I get a call for a retro item, it's not last minute. It's well planned. Where the last minute things might be something that's, the deadline is coming up, and a creative director or a vice president or a license holder, could be Marvel, that said, we don't like this and we need to change, and maybe that artist isn't available, or that artist just wasn't getting it done. And we all have, and when I say these things, I'm not saying anything bad about other artists. It's like sports. Sometimes a pitcher is not the pitcher you want on the mound that day, and you might have to make a change. It might be the 7th inning, and you've got to go to someone else. And sometimes that's me.
Oh, that's kind of a good segue. How did you get working as the Philly Fanatic artist?
Oh boy. That was another one of my intern things back years ago. I left on good terms. I worked in what's called the Fanavision, which was the scoreboard. Like when you go to a ball game and see the big scoreboard, I called it a giant light bright back then. I left on good terms, and that's when I think I left, and I went to work for Disney. And the gentleman who was the artist for the Philly Fanatic merchandise and hats and things, I think he'd been doing it since 1978. So like when I was a kid, he was, I wasn't even old enough to buy the stuff back then, but he was the Philly Fanatic artist, I think, from day one. He's no longer with us. So they had a short list of artists, and they called me and said, would you be interested in, doing this? And I didn't think, well, why would you have someone from Florida do this? And they said, well, you left on good terms. We all still like you. And they do their spring training in Clearwater, which is in Florida. And I go see that every year. And I'm some of the people that I worked with back then are still there. But I didn't give much thought to it because, I thought, they're gonna hire someone in Philadelphia. And they said no. They said, we like you, we like your work and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I did it. Did the children's book, which is the first piece I did, which was last year. And what the Phillies do every year, it's called Fanatic About Reading. So the Phillies encourage schools to track reading hours. And I may be talking, let's say out of line, but I may not have exactly how it works. But basically, it's like school signs up. There's a formula for tracking hours, and some of these schools that get these improved hours or the best hours or whatever it is, they get a party. I guess the Fanatic shows up with some ball players, and it's a pizza party, and he reads to them. It's a kind of a big deal, meaning for the kids, they give the book away at an events for kids 14 and under. I think they gave away 10 or 20,000 books that first year. So every kid 14 and under gets a book. So I've completed the first book, and I said to him, I'm glad it's done. It was hard and whatever I was saying, but really, what made you choose me? They said, we looked at some other people. You were the only one that could hit a children's book, whereas you showed earlier I had a Paw Patrol book. They had looked at, and I guess it was hard to find an artist that had done a 32-page children's book, could hit the deadline, and that was someone that they were comfortable with. So I said, well, what if I didn't do it? Or what I've said no, or whatever. They said, I wouldn't have done it that year. There was two options. We were either going to not do it, or we were going to run a reprint and from one of the books from the 80s or not whatever it was. And I was like, I'm kind of glad you didn't tell me that, because that's a huge responsibility, because I think they've been doing this for 30 years. This every year giving away a book, each year, and the Fanatic writes the book. And there was an illustrator for however many years, and I'm now on year 2. But then that also has come with a couple other things. I think in July 28th they're giving away, and I don't know how much you guys watch sports, but if you do, Kyle Schwarber is a prolific home run hitter for the Phillies, and he used to be a Cub. He won the World Series with the Cubs. One of those, I think it's the 28th, they're giving away this. It's on my Instagram. It's towel. Kids 14 under will get a Kyle Schwarber towel, and I kind of did that in a superhero kind of like comic book style for the final render, and they really like it. So there's talk that there may be other things down the road that tie in with that. And then right now I'm talking with them about doing a coloring book. The coloring book has not been refreshed since 2005 or something like that. So, it's not to sound morbid, but basically I replaced the guy that, he passed away, and he was super talented. His stuff is great. And, I wouldn't be doing it if not for that. So I also feel like, there's a legacy, almost like the respect that I give to these previous artists that with the even though I may not know their name, but I look at the stuff. I did my homework and found out it's Continuity Studios that did the Marvel stuff. I don't know who did the retro Ghostbusters stuff, and my goal is to make it good. And so I try to honor this guy's legacy of all the years that he did the Fanatic stuff, and then this will tie back to a little bit earlier when his style or things like that. He has a style that I had no interest in imitating. It was a very 70s kind of style, and it was great, but I took the approach that this was a good opportunity. Like Jimmy said, like with drawing things, I took my learnings from Nickelodeon and from Disney, and I did an approach as if it could be a Paw Patrol book. So I handled it. If you flip through your Paw Patrol book, that's how I handled it. I made it like almost contemporary, late 90s, 2000s, whatever, where we're not dated, but and not ultra modern, but something that felt like SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents. Yes, something like nice and clean, bright colors, but not. And tight line. My Fanatic is a bit tighter than the previous guy, and I think the previous guy, Len, was using just like brush and just loose and fast, and the stuff had so much energy. But my stuff is a little bit tighter and let's say chaotic, but more reined in. So if you do look on my Fanatic stuff on the Instagram page, it looks like it could fit right in. He could drop into one of those Paw Patrol pages.
Were you a Phillies fan prior?
Yes, that's where I'm originally from, is from Philadelphia. So that made sense for them to grab me as and that as the replacement artist. I mean, I guess there was somebody else out there that's probably better, that would have been a better fit. I'm happy to do it, but yeah. So that's another one of these stories where I was a kid in the area, probably went to one of these games and got the free book. And now here I'm years later, I'm carrying on that tradition. And I'm thinking this is you flipping through the book, but if you see quickly, let me see the next page. There's a kid on the tire swing there.
Oh yeah.
They gave me a script, and of had to, for sanity's sake, come up with who are these kids that are in this particular book. The fanatic is teaching these kids how to play baseball. So whether he knows this or not, is going to find out now that the boy on the tire swing is based on Ryan Ting.
Really?
It's coming up with, and he doesn't know this, but I just did this. You can find it on my social media, and that, and some of them are based on my kids. But for sanity, I'm like, well, these 9 kids are learning baseball, and he doesn't name the 9 kids, and like, well, and I came up with 9 because you need 9 to field a team. So as I'm, doing this book, I stopped the book and went back and I did, these 9 characters. There's a backstory to each of them, which the artist or the writer did not give me a backstory. And for, diversity, well, I'm aware of that with Hasbro, as a sitting here, as an old white dude. But I learned that at an early age is that everything can't be blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people. So, and the toy industry, if you go back and look at some of my old board game illustrations, is learning that right away, is to make sure kids of all colors can see themselves playing these. So I took the same approach to these children's books. So if I'm building a team of kids, one of the things that I drew the inspiration from was the old 70s movie, The Bad News Bear, which is what I just see on cable. And there was, most of the kids were white, so I pushed it a little bit further. So I was like, and part of why I did this, and there's other people at Hasbro that have really helped me out along the way, but as someone who stayed under the radar and things like that, Ryan did something very big for me last year. Was he invited me to Comic-Con to sign the Spider-Man stuff, and I don't appear places. I don't do this stuff. I mean, even for you guys, what I'm doing today is a stretch for me. I'm pretty much an introvert and stay at home, just get the work done behind the scenes. But I'm wondering if that is kind of, like, not say hindered my career, but maybe I should start telling these stories and sit around with like your group and discuss these things on a friendly basis. So by Ryan having me out to Comic-Con, raised my profile a bit in the toy industry, and then just be sitting, at Comic-Con at the Hasbro booth signing these things for people, just nonstop. I was like, so I need to fill the team out, and I'm like, one of the little his shirt in the book, he's got a moon on it, so kind of like Laser Man. I wanted to have the Ryan character to something that had a Marvel mark, and without getting sued, it's the Moonlight logo, which is the moon. But I was that, and a lot of it honestly was just for me to keep track of these kids. I made a checklist of the scorecard of these kids, so when I'm drawing them through the book, almost like a style guide. If I do a SpongeBob book, well, I know what color SpongeBob's spots are and things. I've got a book that these kids didn't exist, so the Fanatic is a recurring character, but this book, these were 9 new kids that were going to recur, and so I made this thing to kind of keep track of them. And I was like, Ryan's a cool dude, and some of the little things that when I'm doing these books, the hidden stuff, and not that I was trying to hide anything, but I'm like, well, what's on his shirt? He works on the Marvel stuff, so I mean, I could have put a spider, but that may have been too obvious. I'm like, a subtle moon and I think at the time I was working on it, Moon Knight was on the Disney Plus, and I was liking that. So, if I hadn't told this story right here, no one would know. I mean, it is on my private Facebook or whatever, but inspiration comes from everywhere. So I've never told that story, and it's not an important story or anything like that, but I just thought that you said we got to the Fanatic thing, that that's just the way all of my stuff, when I said earlier, connect the dots, is that there's a character named Ryan in the children's book, and as I go forward and do more of these books, I'm going to hide more people in them, and not that I'm hiding them, but I'm going to draw in. If they're asking me to draw this book, I'm going to, if there's the opportunity, I'm going to put family, friends, co-workers as background characters. I can't do that with Hasbro stuff. If I'm doing a Spider-Man thing, I've got to put Paw Patrol. I've got to put the right characters in it. But if I've got a crowd scene at a baseball game, I'm going to put a cartoon of one of my kids in it, or something like that. So,
well, if you ever want to put a little Asian boy with a little L on his shirt,
He could fight Ryan for the tire swing.
Wade Crate asks, Pat or Geno's?
Neither.
So what's the best one?
South Jersey cheesesteak, because that's more like a cheesesteak sub, so you get the lettuce, tomato.
Yeah.
To me, that's better. And Pat's and Geno's are overrated. Or those, as a kid in art school or whatever, I ate a lot of both of them. But if someone had a choice now, and I don't know if you have these in your area, like Jersey Mike's, that's that's like what I consider a South Jersey style cheesesteak. I like those better. So if I go to a ballpark, I don't get cheesesteaks.
Yeah,
fair. I wasn't sure if you're gonna go Wawa.
Yeah, Wawa, love Wawa.
I do love a Wawa hoagie though. So I'm not knocking it.
Good Wawa.
Yeah, I would take a Wawa hoagie over a cheesesteak. And this is blasphemy. I probably make a lot of this stuff I'm saying. I'm probably burning a lot of fans.
One of my best buddy lives in Philly, and he totally agrees. I agree with you. Like, I've had both. I did a side by side comparison, like everyone does when you go over there. And I like a more traditional kind of like sub cheesesteak.
Yeah, because you could put lettuce, tomato, oregano, but the banana peppers, you put jalapeno.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like Pat's and Geno's is just like it's cheese,
bread,
cheese whiz, bread and meat. Yeah, and it's like it's artery clogging. At least you give me a tomato and I can say, well, I ate my vegetables today.
At least get it through the artery. I think we had one more question. Does Harry put Easter eggs in his artwork often?
Yeah, kids. Yeah, I kind of went over that earlier. The kids wind up in it when I can, and I don't force that because, again, going back to something I learned in art school, and maybe you guys have heard the stories of where somebody snuck something into a Little Mermaid poster they shouldn't have back in the day.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, you all laugh, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, I learned in art school that someone back in the day, and this is the days of airbrush, not a computer. There was an ice cube in a Coca-Cola ad, and the letters SEX was hidden in it. That was hammered home to me at art school. Do not do that. Don't do that. So we kind of like learned, in a children's book, if it's not a licensed book, if it doesn't matter, you can put a kid or a friend or somebody like that. But yeah, for my licensed stuff, like for Paw Patrol or SpongeBob or, no, that's a no-go. I don't want to lose work, not that I don't know if it would be the term blacklisted or whatever, but that's kind of like, the horror story of the guy with a hook in the back of your car. I was told in art school, don't hide subliminal stuff into your art. You'll never work again. Okay. Yeah, I'm not doing it. But yeah, if it's basically, this Fanatic book gives me an opportunity to put people, and they're not always named. It's just I know who they are, and that person, when I give them a book, I say, well, that's you on page 7, and they're like, well, why'd you make me so fat? And I'm like, well, I won't put you in the book again, something like that. But most of them, they're very thrilled that I did that. But it's mostly it's a visual thing, for continuity. And like, okay, well, here's the large kid that hits the home runs, or here's the fast kid with the bowl haircut. That it's just for me to make sure he's got the same color shoes on through the book. And it's a rare thing, and it's basically only exists in this Fanatic book. But I'm pretty, a lot of my artistic needs are being filled with all these different clients. So if you look, I also work for Hershey, like I said, with DreamWorks Universal. So it's not just superheroes, which again, I love the superheroes. That's what as a kid, this Spider-Man was everything. But it's fun to work on stuff for trolls. And, like making fun of myself, knowing the Paw Patrol is, I feel like I stay younger and stay relevant when I'm working on, I'm working on some stuff for Gabby's Dollhouse and learning these characters along the way. And, always try to stay young, I guess. Yeah. And so I like it. I like working on a variety of things. So again, like, someone who we say cheesesteaks, it's just, if you're eating bread and water every day, that gets pretty boring. So I like it when someone calls and says, "Hey, we've got some SpongeBob stuff for you today," or in a week from now, it could be something for Hershey, and variety is the spice of life. I never know what I'm going to be working on from day to day, week to week. Sometimes that's scary because I don't know, as far as paying the bills, when's the work coming in, when's this, but then, there's always something that comes up. There's always something new for me to do. And, if you go through my Instagram, there's stuff that's like, some of this stuff it would be career highlights for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm working on a career highlight, it seems like every month. So I'm really lucky. And again, it's because art directors are picking me. I don't get to choose to work. I can work on it. I can say yes or no, but I'm getting the phone call. That someone from Hasbro, Nickelodeon, whoever it is saying, yeah, let's give him this project or whatever. They do have the choice. They could use whatever artist that they want. So I'm blessed that there's enough people in the industry like, yeah, he's good and he meets deadlines.
Yeah. Wow. It's pretty amazing. You had said, like, you talk about some of the stuff, like, you obviously do a lot of great research and do a lot of deep dives into your art, whether it's to the character art, into the story, to make sure that your art is accurate. I think one of the things that, at least talking to you tonight, that I'm picking up is that you're also a fan. You're a big fan of many of the things that you've done. That also, I feel, you channel your inner nostalgia, and also um, your inner love for a lot of these characters you portray on anything that you've done. It's really, even just Yimbo going through the Paw Patrol book. I was like, wow, this art is crisp. This is nice.
And you're right. There's a love. I put the love into all of it, and I think part of it is like, when I do it to the level like that I would buy it. I guess no matter what it is, if it's a preschool item or a superhero item, I try to just do it to a level that obviously I'm earning my pay, but also like don't want to be ashamed of my own work or like, oh yeah, that wasn't really good or whatever. And there's the term that you can only mathematically you can only give 100%, whatever it is. When someone says, oh, I'm giving 120%, whatever it is, yes and no, because for example, if I'm not feeling this is right, I'll work the weekend on it, where someone else may work their 100% is 9 to 5, 5 days a week, whatever. I'll work 24 hours straight if I have to, if that's what it takes to get it done. So in a way, and I'm not disparaging anybody or trying to pat myself on the back, is that I don't watch the clock. Is when the project looks right and I'm ready to turn it in is when I will do it. And that's almost like something I've not saying I've tricked anybody, but it's like I have clients that say, well, you're fast. Well, I stayed up all night to do it. But some of this stuff, it's like I'm working on some of these things. Like I'm really like enjoying sitting up all night working on some of these things. I'll use this iPad, I'll put on Disney Plus or I'll put on whatever, and it just work. They're challenging things to work on, but they're by no means a burden. Like they're really fun. And if you see that Batman stuff, that was just like to be the story behind that was the art director for Hasbro was doing a Monopoly game. And there's a Warner Brothers style guide, and it's got Batman, Robin, and the main characters. But they said this game is going to be villain based, and these villains don't exist yet in this style guide. And I guess I don't know if Warner Brothers was too busy, not enough time, whatever. And they're like, could you work up Bane, Riddler, all these other guys, and match the style guide? Going back again to where I'm being asked to match a certain look, and I think I got it 90%. There, if you're an artist, you might see, oh, well, it's a little off here, there, maybe. But this art director, I respect him a lot because he could have just put style guide art from a different brand for Alfred or for the Scarecrow or whatever. He was committed, and probably his leadership as well was committed to making this game cohesive art all the way through. And if you go, you can find this on Amazon. But if you look around the board, the fact that they didn't mix and match art styles, this is a nice piece, and I credit the art director from Hasbro for not taking the shortcut, saying, well, we'll grab a Jim Lee Catwoman and a Bob Kane, Riddler, or Jim Aparo Riddler, or whoever. This is a really, and the design, the graphic design, all that, the elements, the placement, that all is on the art director from Hasbro. I got to help by doing 12 extra characters. But when you look at that thing, and I look at the board, well, there's the villain characters that I helped out with. And then Warner Brothers had, obviously they may do overlay corrections, and they had their input as well. But that was pretty neat. Just one day I got a phone call. It's like, you're not to say this. One day I got a phone call, and it's like, hey, would you like to draw and render these 12 characters? They're like, well, who is it? I'm like, well, yeah, I've never worked on Clayface before, or Alfred. I may never again. But and mostly because of that art director at Hasbro. It's a damn nice Monopoly board. And this was when I think I was doing this about July of last year, and I forgot about it. One day it popped into my Amazon recommendations. Of course, then I'll hit Hasbro up for a sample at some point, but whenever I get around to it. But yeah, I never know. I could, 2 days from, I can have no work for 2 days, and then Monday I can have an inbox full, of fun requests like that, and that's the thing I think about. And while you're talking to me, this stuff is so fun, all of it, and a collaborative effort, because like I keep saying, the toys are the star, the toy itself. I care very much about the packaging because of that, from finding those toy packages back in the day and being obsessed with them, to, the art director that, on that Monopoly board that decided, hey, we're going to do this consistent, and just to contribute to it was good, because ultimately, there's going to be a Monopoly collector or a Batman collector that's going to really like that board, because of all the art. I mean, I didn't do the Batman and I didn't do the Robin, but I did my best to make the other characters that were needed. So when that person looks at that board and like, wow, that's good, and that, well, for me long term, that means that art director from Hasbro will be like, yep, when we're in a pinch again, we'll call Harry.
Yeah.
Well, as one create said, sick, love that Bane. I also really like that Bane too. I mean, they're all stunning, but that was the one that caught my eye.
Yeah,
well, that was another one where I looked at the Batman, all the existing characters, like, how are they doing it? Okay, here's the line, here's where the lighting comes in, and that was a tight deadline. That was one where, and as they were tougher than Paw Patrol. There was a time amount attached to all of those, but it was worth putting in the time for have someone like you and whoever else. I know the Hasbro art directors appreciate it. I know their bosses appreciate it. And in the end, maybe Amazon doesn't understand, or the retailer, they may just like, hey, this looks pretty cool. But there are enough people buying it and enough people behind the scenes that know, yeah, Harry gave us, 110%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is kind of a good segue, because we do like to talk about, we like to go into our TPC, our top 10, but we always talk about what is making us happy right now. So you kind of talked about that, but Harry, what is making you happy, like, at this moment right now?
My Andre the Giant mug full of Guinness.
There you go.
That's what got me through the Laser Man presentation.
That's the quote we need.
That's one I need. That's like the one that ends all the quotes.
That's wonderful.
Yimbo, what's making you happy right now?
Oh, like I was saying, it was a nice day being out. Got a big day for my kids tomorrow, and this has been a lovely evening. So yeah, I'm just all happy. I'm all smiles right now.
How about yourself, No.Chewing?
Warm weather. Just happy getting out there. Started running again outside. So simple things. What about you, Chris?
I don't know. Just feeling good. Yeah, maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's just making sure. Just I've been dieting, and I feel good just physically, and I've been actually sleeping a lot better, and I think that's been the difference maker to my mood. So the sleep has been important. Well, Harry, on this, we've been doing we're always trying to improve ourselves as toy daddies. And what we're doing this year was trying to limit our purchases and making sure that every purchase is a good purchase, and to 100 figures within the year. Most likely we're going to fail. Most likely I'm going to fail, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So right now we're talking about our counts of the number of figures we've bought so far in the school year. In the year. I'm wrapping up a school year. In the year. Chewy, it's not 48. I know this is like way off.
I know we have to update this. It's 65.
65.
I picked up Pizza Club Donnie this week.
Okay, cool. 65.
Yeah.
Yimbo.
This number is also wrong. I don't know where it is. It's
90.
It's under 85.
It's under 85. Okay.
Big swing. There we go.
Yeah.
Fair.
So we'll see. I have to yeah. But whatever. At least I'm just happy to get some toy time this week. So
very good. What's
Chris,
making
where
you
at?
Well, this is an accurate number because I did my slide. So 93. We're almost there, guys. The race to 100 is almost there. I'm almost there.
You have to make sure number 100 is a really solid toy.
Yeah, I know. I actually wanted to at least go to the chat one of these shows and have them choose my 100th figure. If you have any ideas, put it in the chat. Come on, make it a good one, please. 100 figure. I did pick up the Hot Toys Groot. It should be coming soon.
Ooh.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Well, I was on the wait list of the other one, but then I found a really good deal. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Are these numbers from a year ago, or did the count start in January?
The count started in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. We buy a lot of toys. When you talk about toys and action figures on the internet each week.
If it helps, Harry, I'm fairly certain 20 of those numbers are, we're just supporting your art.
That's true. So
I appreciate it.
Marvel Legends, Marvel Legends.
Yeah. You're supporting the industry, and I won't knock that, but and I was quickly trying to think, well, I know I've got the case of I've got the Iron Man ones that just came out, the VHS, but yeah, I'm like 24, and then be honest with you, I ran out of room. I have some stuff from let's say retro classic Jurassic Park, Power Rangers stuff that's all still in the box from back when I was younger. But now I only, and I promised my wife, I will only buy what I've worked on, or get it free from Hasbro, which it still adds up pretty quick. My office is full of Hasbro stuff, but if I were to pick something that wasn't mine, and I bought a few of them, is I love the X-Men 97 stuff, and that was before I guess supply chain issues and timing, that some of those figures started coming out before the cartoon.
Yeah.
Man, and now to see the prices.
Oh,
again, I'm not one of the people that scalps or whatever, but just to see now how expensive some of those characters are, that I'm sure you guys have picked up as well, but what a nice treat that how good the X-Men 97 series is, and how good the figures were to support it. And I have nothing to do with it. I'm not giving away any spoilers, but that would be my favorite line that I don't work on. So I'm hoping you guys are buying that as well, or you got it before the prices went nuts.
Definitely did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely did.
Yeah, definitely got a Rogue way before.
I don't understand how that Rogue. I didn't realize that Rogue was going for so much.
Well, it's like every other Rogue when she first comes out, and if she doesn't get a high quantity, it just skyrockets.
And it seems like they always do that, though. She never gets a high quality.
Yeah.
And the X-Men VHS stuff was nice too. Those boxes, and that giving credit to, that stuff. There probably isn't a Spider-Man VHS line if it wasn't for that, because that was a good idea, and I'm assuming they went that route, I guess, because of the plastic-free initiative for a little bit that they kind of experimented with, but it's a damn nice concept, like, and so 1990s, because you had those X-Men, Spider-Man stuff VHS boxes, and they were neat. That closed box with that VHS, when reading the thing on the back, they fit hand in hand with a toy. And whoever at Hasbro, I guess, that had the idea to, like, okay, a closed box, make it a VHS, and I don't know if it was Hasbro that came up with it first, maybe, but it was. I loved it from so that was another line that I did grab. Is the VHS stuff. So that was a treat, because around the same time that the Spider-Man stuff I was working on, but it came out later, but I think the Spider-Mans are a 2-pack, but the VHS X-Men stuff is just so brilliant, because you can display it on your shelf with the spine out, almost like it is a VHS, or the forward, and the art is great, and the little thing on the side where there's the head profile that Hasbro asked me to continue that Spider-Man stuff, is that the head-to-head kind of thing. So, and if you collect the X-Men VHS and you put the Spider-Man VHS, they kind of feel like cousins. Like they're a nice continuity. And I think that, again, having, I'm sure Dan and Ryan and the art directors at Hasbro, they're aware of that. And that was probably a conscious effort. And I love that, the fact that, they kind of do work together. So the Hasbro people, and I'm not just saying this because I work with them, but they're smart. And some of the stuff, I've worked with some clients in the past where I'm just like, well, that's not a good idea, but I bite my tongue because I'm taking the paycheck. But with Hasbro, I mean, a lot of the stuff, I'm like, wow, that's super smart, and some of the stuff that they're doing. And again, so I'm blessed to work with them. But yeah, it's like there's so much to choose from. So you guys, whatever the 93, I'm happy that you guys are doing that, but also I can see that because there's so much good stuff, like NECA. When I went to Comic-Con, old Universal Monsters fan, I picked up the glow-in-the-dark creature from the Black Lagoon. Hasbro sent some of my stuff later because I didn't want to get on an airplane and have that stuff crushed or cost make my bag heavier or whatever. But the one thing I made sure I picked up was that creature from the Black Lagoon, that glow in the dark by NECA. And I ripped that thing right out in the hotel room that night. Pictures of it glowing in the dark. I'm like, and it really glows well. And I don't hope that Hasbro doesn't get upset, whatever, because it's, they don't have the universal license. But that NECA, and again, that resonates to me. Those I didn't have those. They were a little bit before my time. But the Remco Universal Monster cards that they're honoring with that line, they're beautiful. The sculpts are beautiful. That Bela Lugosi figure in that line may be one of the best Dracula figures I've ever seen. They're well articulated, and then that card just is one of those cards from, again, as you guys acknowledge this, I'm not a historian on it, but I respect it. So I know enough to that, that was Remco, and they nailed. And NECA absolutely nailed that packaging. It's and the sculpts, they're fabulous. So, as someone who's in the industry, I still geek out over companies that do it well.
Yeah,
even if I don't work for them.
Well, what a great story. I definitely love to hear. I mean, again, it's just the love of toys, the love of anything that outside that you're working on, and that's
it's a shared bond too, like the excitement of getting a toy and just getting back to your hotel room and just opening it. That's
and it's a great time now, because as I'm talking about NECA and we're talking about Sprite, I mean, and we've touched on it briefly. I mean, if you're a Turtles fan,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot with retro. There's a retro article like Vintage. I think they've got some stuff that look like VHS things, and then there's a new uh, the new movie. I'm working again with their style guide team with some stuff. I'm not going to say too much. I think it ties in with the movie. Whatever I'm doing, I don't know if I can show it yet, but if when I can, it'll be on my Instagram. But yeah, Turtles is like, and I remember. I don't know what your experience with it, but I think I had the original card backs, the first 5 or 6. I think I stopped around April O'Neil, and there was a robot called Fugitoid.
Yeah.
May have been the last one that I grabbed. So that's kind of like when I either moved away from it or moved on to other things. But I had the comic book. I had issue. I didn't have the issue 1. I wish I did because I think I could buy an airplane with it if I'd have sold it. But I have issue 2 and 3, the first printing, and I think I have up till issue 10. If I'm saying it right, there's a character named Cerebus, the Aardvark, that was a crossover with the Turtles, and that was a hard one to find because it wasn't on newsstands. You had to go like the comic book stores to find the Turtles comic from wherever that 80s 90s time frame. But I had some of those Turtles figures. And they were great. Looking back on them, you know, the pink packaging and all that stuff is great. And some of that stuff is being redone now. And I think I picked up a couple of them just to kind of like look at them and to see what was going on. They're remarkable. The sculpts, the quality of the plastic, and of course the card itself. Forgot this, another toy that I just picked up. The Toxic Avenger. I think he was around the same time period, like in the 90s. And I think it was a Playmates figure. And he fit right in, like he had that, you know, bulky stance. And again, my Playmate, you know, almost like their version of what a He-Man figure stance was. The Toxic Avenger fit right in with the Turtles. So I think I had that back in the day. So I think it was Trick or Treat Studios that did that. I just got that in the mail. I haven't opened it yet, but that was another great thing. So it's just where I'm going with this is that, you know, all the great nostalgia stuff that there is a Spider-Man vintage line, there's Spider-Man modern stuff. You know, whether you like the movies or Across the Spider-Verse, there's so much stuff. Like, you know, I can remember in a time period where there wasn't Spider-Man toys really in the 90s. I think there was, well, before Toy Biz. I think there was like the Superpowers and the Secret Wars, but there was slim pickings. But now it's like, could you imagine not seeing a Spider-Man toy figure on the shelf? It always sounds like a no-brainer. But at one point, I guess in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there were large gaps of time where there was no Spider-Man or even superhero stuff in general. But so like right now, and then G.I. Joe. I mean, there's modern G.I. Joe that they're dabbling in the vintage stuff as well. Right now, it's a great time, but also an expensive time to be a toy collector.
It is.
It is. Absolutely so true.
All right. Well, let's dive into the top 10. Let's check out number 10.
Hey now. Hey man. So this is from he's been killing in the chat tonight, but Josh Brown Toys got himself nominated, got himself a top 10 finish. We are so excited to talk about this. So Harry, like I said, we were, you know, at the start before we went live, we're going to go through something that catches your eye. I'll rotate through. I'm going to do my teacher thing and make sure everybody gets a turn. Yes. But Harry, would you like to start things off? What's something that you notice about this toy photo? This is featuring one of the new Mythic Legions that just came out on Anubis. This is Anubis.
Anubis.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the line in general, but I haven't seen this figure until you just showed it to me. Now, this Josh Brown, I'm guessing that he did the background and all that stuff. So it's just the figure is the only thing that's off the shelf per se.
No, well, this is a crazy set.
So that it's not just a figure that. Wow.
Yeah, like it comes with so much. So that altar, the little I don't know the
Faces?
vases, that with cream the remains. I'm assuming
That
there's even a little
statue in the
cat
corner.
statue. Yeah, it's all part of the set.
Yimbo, you got this, right?
I do. I enjoy them very much. I actually had a photo set up on my coffee table
Oh,
for like a week, and I had to bring
Josh
it
Brown
to.
is saying that the background is just the cardboard backdrop it came with.
That's amazing.
So the
Yeah,
packaging opens up. So it's a
magnetized.
magnet, and so it opens up and it becomes a background.
That's great.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, look at like Josh Brown's use of the godlight coming down. Very appropriate for for this subject matter. But man, excellent work, Josh.
Great work.
Yeah.
Love it.
So congratulations, buddy.
Oh, and before we move on,
yeah.
to plug, Josh Brown has a custom head sculpt shop. Go visit him, or go to Instagram and visit Josh Brown Customs. He recently got the STL files for a certain trademarked popcorn bucket that will be popular next month. So
that's right.
Awesome.
I saw that in his story today.
That's great. All right, well, let's move on to number 9.
Number 9. Emerald Night Photos, another friend of the show, another friend in general. What's going on, dude? Ooh. I'm digging this. So Chris, why don't we start with you, my friend? Bottom to top.
Definitely this is a YOLO Park, right? I've yet to build mine.
Oh, you haven't built yours yet?
No, I'm waiting for a special occasion, but for my to build the YOLO Megatron and Optimus Prime, but pretty awesome. I'm just wondering how they got the Duke. Is that Duke? Who is that?
Yes.
Yes,
it's Duke.
So first of all, awesome mashup. But I'm wondering if that is a classified figure and he just superimposed the photo, or if that's a minifigure.
I think that he merged two photos together.
That's what I'm thinking too. So
yeah,
fantastic.
It's not the YOLO Park though, so I'm curious as to
it's
Megatron.
Not really.
I was just holding up mine, and if you look at the chest, like there's two little. It's different. It's different. That's all.
That giant Transformer company, the one that did the 1/12 Optimus.
Panda. It's like Panda or something.
Pangu.
Yeah,
Pangu?
Pangu.
They didn't do a Megatron, did they? Because then this is probably just in scale.
I don't think they did.
Or is it?
I'm not sure.
Either way, amazing work. And yeah, I do think this is probably a composite because I have the Duke Mini Brands figure, the world's smallest.
It doesn't look that
and it doesn't. He's not as articulated in the legs.
Got it. Well, congratulations, Emerald Night Photos. Let's move on to number 8.
Number 8.
Fun Picks 22.
All right, Chewy, you're up first.
No, I love the darkness of this photo. It really sells the action for me. I don't know this character. I know the other guys from G.I. Joe, but I love just this. It's not a simple action, but that's the story. It's just this awesome kick to the chest.
Yeah, sparring session.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting sparring vibes. And I think is it a Tekken character? I think it's a Tekken character. I remember seeing D Amazing like a Storm Collectibles, like he was, but I'm not sure if it's Tekken or not.
Jukebox Hero says it's Baki Hanma. Oh,
okay.
Baki Hanma. So yeah, it's still like I said,
it's an anime.
I know D Amazing likes this character, but I'm unaware. Anime, okay. Harry, anything jumping out to you?
I thought it was Rocky Balboa, but he's kicking instead of punching.
It's definitely that scene with him and Apollo.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the G.I. Joe character is the boxing G.I. Joe character, if I remember correctly.
I know.
Boa.
Big Boa. Right. So instantly, okay, that's the play on the Rocky figure beating up the boxing figure. But but he's kicking. But I like the smoke in the background though. That's well done, and almost like the point of impact. Where the foot is hitting, and there's almost like the lighting. So it's well done. The only thing that I do wish is that we're all struggling, even though I was really far off. This maybe a little bit more of the kicker's face. So maybe one of you guys could have figured out who it was quicker.
We still wouldn't have, but
probably went to help now.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a weak spot for us.
The face, I would have known it was not Rocky Balboa. If I got the face.
Yeah.
Harry, has anyone ever told you you're so Philly?
It's almost like you themed this whole thing around me.
But fun picks 22, excellent shot, really well done. And Harry, before we move on to number 7, like how aware of you were? That's awful wording.
It's after 11. It's okay, Yimbo.
It is after 11. It's the witching hour. How aware of toy photography were you in the scope of toys and action figures and the work that you've been doing?
Well, I was aware of it as something that was used on back of packaging, like for cross sell. So going back to Star Wars figures or some of these packaging that I'd find, and you had the cross sell, so I knew there was figure photography. I have done photo retouching on characters. Sometimes had to add color back in the day. Photo shoots for toys were on back of packaging, and I did some of those things for Disney on packaging and cleaned them up. And now I think most of it is done as digital renders and things. At least I'm sure Hasbro does. But now, like I'm seeing online, and Mr. Stevie shares some of this, is the fans that do things like this. So it's like, wow. So it's almost like there's a whole art to that, to where you're posing the figure, you're getting the lighting and things like that. And I think one of the things that helps is that going back to the toys of my generation, or even a retro Star Wars figure, they're fun, and I don't want to make anyone upset. They're not that great posed. Yeah. These figures today, the Marvel Legends, the He-Man figures, the McFarlane figures, they look great posed. So I think that helps. That helps this look like art, because you couldn't get a 1977 Star Wars figure into these positions.
Right.
So yeah, I don't do it. Once in a while I'll do photo retouching here and there, like I think I did for some of the Spider-Man cards. There was things that need to be cleaned up on prototypes or things like that, and there might be a scene that they kind of put them in. But yeah, I love seeing on a cross sell, and I think the Turtles is putting them in a little sewer scene on the background of the packaging was kind of cool. But fans have taken it to the next level with this kind of work. So there's no one in particular that I follow, but when I was skimming through Instagram and Steve, I know his real name. I don't know if we're allowed to say it or what, but yeah, but Mr. Stevie, I used to work with Mr. Stevie back on Chuck and Friends back in the day, so I've known him a long time, and he's another smart toy industry guy. Could probably fill hours of time with the stuff that he's worked on, the knowledge he brings. But he shares these things of different artists and the different photography, and that's where I've seen the most is on his Instagram, where he shares other people's work. I mean, when he shares toy photography artists' work. And I love seeing it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you. It was just like curiosity in terms of, because we've all had our different moments in time when it's like, oh, this is a thing. How cool is that? And now that's kind of like what we do here. This is our little art community that we've been building together. But congratulations again, Fun Picks 22. Let's move on to number 7. What do you think? E. Kodarianto.
Yes.
Love it.
I think that sounded pretty good.
No, that sounds about right.
Doing our best. And yes, hashtag we are Banksy Wade. So this is really cool. Harry, what's popping in, what's catching your eye at this moment? What jumps out to you first?
Well, I'm assuming maybe there's a lot of Photoshop work going on there for the energy and things like that, which looks good. Can't tell who the guy is, if it's a Mandalorian character or old Iron Man armor, but I obviously see that's an alien, and I see some of the plants and things like that. And I don't know if that's the protagonist with the gun is from one of the Alien movies that maybe I missed, but there's a lot of energy in it, and I think that's pretty cool. He almost looks like the arc reactors on his chest if it's Iron Man or
a Laser Man.
Yeah,
could be a Laser Man.
Laser Man Armor 23.
Yeah. Looks like a Mach 1.
Look at taking out these crop eating insect infestation. He's got to save, right? He's got to save the wheat. He's got to save the
farm. Save
the dairy farm. Those are not they're milk pods.
Josh Brad makes me so happy.
Right? Josh Brad says it looks like an Iron Man Mark 1. Jukebox Hero says it might be from Dead Space Armor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm on this photographer's Instagram page, and it's Mark 1.
There you go. Man. Mark 1 Laser Man. Awesome. Just kidding. Please don't sue.
Hashtag please don't sue. Well, fantastic. Coda Arianto.
And this is, again, perfect time to remind everybody, if someone is new to you, go check them out. Go give them a follow. Give them some likes, some comments. That'll go a long way. And that's all we're trying to do, is help grow this little corner of the internet. Number 6.
Paleo Collector. Jinx. Awesome.
Did you pick this one? Was this a hashtag pick?
No, I picked the next one.
Okay.
I think this was you, wasn't it? You picked
Maybe this was me. I knew one of us did, because it still makes me laugh.
Yeah, you definitely picked this one, yeah.
Chewy, I'm gonna start with you, man. So what's
the thing that's kind of make me laugh? It's the driver of the Jeep just looking back, like, oh, like again.
I really like the snacking that's happening
in
this picture. Yeah. A great posing on these like little. So this is the tiny Hammond, the Hammond collection is a small scale, if I'm not mistaken. Amber was the 6-inch wave that unfortunately.
Okay, yeah.
Rest in peace. But
I think the Hammond also rest in peace as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. I know that.
I like the scale. If I would have done this, and I probably did with camera or Polaroid in my backyard as a kid, there would have been a rock that would have looked wrong. Like the scale would have been in a backyard. There would have been a tree that was a real tree. Everything's to scale. And as minor as that may seem, is that the shrubs in the background, the tree that's in the far background, the tree to the right, it works well in the environment. Like, we know that they're action figures or whatever, but like, wow, that looks, it's like, it's to scale. The tree looks like that's about the size it would be to the dinosaur and things like that. So I don't know if that's a photo that's placed behind it, or if they just got something lucky in the distance that works. But I like that, because I was thinking like, well, how would I do that if I took a camera, my backyard, there'd be a cat, sneaking his way in to throw the whole scale off. So the scale of this is really little things like that. I'm looking is that the scale's nice on this.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice we've gotten from some of our successful photographers in our doing our hobby thing, and it's always to pay attention, especially with outdoor shots. Like not to have like a leaf in it. Like even those little details, to just check your frame, check everything to make sure it doesn't pull you out. Because this is so well done. like you were saying. So yeah, congratulations, Paleo Collector. Nerdy Sassanach says, "LOL, I'm dead, y'all." It's a great photo. It's a great photo. But yeah, you're muted, Christopher.
Chris, we can't hear you.
Said, let's get into our top 5.
The top 5, baby.
And here we go.
Number 5.
Crow Collection. What? Oh, well, let's see. I think we might actually have answers. Maybe. I know I sent my messages early this week. Yes, we do have, because I'm very curious as to where this Simpsons figure came from. Is this a Super 7? The arms don't look like...
No, I don't think
it looks
Super
like
7
there's
got
no
far.
articulation here.
Yeah, maybe a little up and down movement. I love that little Spidey, though. I wonder if that's a Marvel toy box.
I love that, too.
Or from the mini brands. That is neat. But again, this so Harry. Some of our photos, it's so cool. The assortment that we get at the end, like when we actually look at all 10 each week, because we'll get portraits, we'll get super practical stuff, we'll get heavily edited stuff, and it's just so interesting what resonates and what hits the algorithm for people each week. And I love it. This is the simplicity of this, but it also how well done it was taken. I love it.
Well, I was trying to guess is when you guys were mentioning what line. I think Playmates went pretty deep.
Okay.
With the Simpsons line, and he could be comic book guy. And I think he came with a play set. And if you're not familiar with him, you look them up. The Playmates figures. I think it was kind of like at the time Turtles. They weren't doing too many, but they got the Simpsons line in the Simpsons heyday. And if you flip the figure over, it had a small little thing, a hole like it's on its under its foot, and if you sat it down in the play set, they would say their sayings.
Nice.
Cool.
That's where the Treehouse of Horror ones, 5-packs, and some like a Toys R Us exclusive. So I forget till I saw this, man. I was a fiend for those, and some of them on the card, and using the voices. So however it worked was like if you sat them on the play set, there must have been a reader or a connection that the figure's foot made with the base, so it said what that character that you were using said. So I guess the sayings were hidden in the play set, but it got unlocked by this specific character. So that's my guess. This figure is, from looking at it, it's unacceptable because the figure's not meant on card. A comic book guy is probably telling Bart.
So true.
Or one of these kids, like, I'm not. This figure is worthless,
right?
or this is clearly a knockoff.
Yeah,
right.
Look at Spider-Man's face.
Yeah.
Well, we do have answers from Raul. So here we go. I always make photos for events, portraits, and more, but it's fun to make photos to my action figures. So I created this account, and the first thing I made here is that picture for my profile. And you are correct, Harry. It is a Playmates Jeff from The Simpsons and a little Spider-Man bootleg from my childhood.
Amazing.
And I was pretty close.
You were close. And what's bringing what Raul joy right now is the other collectors. I love how they have the same passion and creativity like me. Even more, I'm so glad to have this space. And I think I'm the first collector from Paraguay who appears in the TPC. I can't confirm that, but I will high five you and say, that sounds good to me.
Also, one thing that we always like to do is whenever we like to promote everyone in the top 10, but specifically smaller accounts. Crow Collection is currently sitting at 189. Please give this photographer a follow, and maybe you'll see something you enjoy.
It worked really well in the circle in his profile pic. When you had the circle framed it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Crow Collection. I love this. This photo just spoke to me. So, and many of us.
Chris, this computer doesn't work. Number 4.
Nilla Gorilla, who's that?
We know Jeremy. Man, he continues to just drop amazing shot after amazing shot, and this
He
is
levels
no
up
different.
every single time. Every single time.
Oh, he's in the chat tonight, right?
He is. He's right here.
Shoot, we don't have any. I was hoping to see if we had any of the answers for him, but if he's here,
Hey, Nilla, what's making you happy? What
yeah,
to me right now, and
That's not one of the questions.
isn't it? It's making you happy.
No, here's what the little bonus ones, because Nilla Gorilla has graced our top 10 before, and it was my turn to come up with some. So I was trying to be proactive this week. So I put, if you could learn any new skill right now, what would it be and why? What fictional world would you like to visit and why? And if you were a character in a movie, what genre would it be? And what would your character arc be? That's the ELA teacher in me. Going a little, maybe not fun. I gave homework and Jeremy was like, I'm not doing it.
That's how I felt about Anubis, that mythic figure. I'm like, this feels like a history lesson. I'm out.
But I'm an educator.
Stop trying to teach me mythic.
I'm a teacher. It spoke to me.
Nilla says, always the community making me happy.
Yeah, buddy. Machu, the Machu Toy says, this lighting is stellar. So true. Getting that glistening right off of both armor sets.
Oh, we got an answer. Nilla would want to visit Harry Potter's world.
All right, fair. Muggle.
Good wizard, bad wizard. Where are we going with this?
Just a visit, right? Like for vacationing.
Harry, what are you noticing?
If you're a Muggle, isn't that just like London?
I thought a Muggle was non-magic person.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You're just a Muggle. You're just Europe.
And Jeremy said a little bit of both. Yeah, just to visit. LOL. There you go. But Harry, what are you noticing about this shot? What's jumping out to you? What do you enjoy?
I like the use of the smoke. Again, I think this is the second one where smoke was used effectively, and again the scale. The vines, things that are kind of down at the bottom. So they could have just had the platform or the stone base, but putting some of the growth in the foreground and in the background. And again, I'm guessing there was some Photoshop with the dark saber and the lightsaber, but I don't know. But it works. And then I like that just there's just enough lighting that that's Darth Vader. Even obviously the lightsaber gives it away, but the red light is just reflecting on all the right places. So as someone who does stuff, everything's bright and well easy to see. This is very cinematic. It almost looks like a still from Mandalorian season 5 or something like that. I guess they don't exist in the same timeline, but this maybe, I don't know. I guess they do. But it looks like a movie still.
Yeah.
Or a Disney Plus still.
Well, I gotta say, if this interaction happened in season 4 of Mandalorian, it'd be over for Din.
Yeah,
he can barely wield that dark saber.
Well, I'm trying to remember, but I guess it takes place after Return of the Jedi, so technically Darth Vader was dead. If that's a spoiler, I guess, if no one has seen it.
We only have a 24-hour window where we worry about spoilers.
Yeah, we just late roll about it.
Something from 2 years ago is safe.
Yeah,
He's
you're
dead?
okay.
Or that Darth Vader's dead. We got a 30+ window.
Well, congratulations, Jeremy. Again, go check out Nilla Gorilla 13. Moving on to number 3.
Oh,
another good friend, Shaba Fernando. Oh man, I have to bring something else up, but why don't you guys kick things off?
I love accessories. I love miniature things. The fact that he has this miniature Genesis, and he's playing Sonic on this TV. I think this is a Luke figure.
It looks like a Dagobah Luke.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's this little He-Man figure on the.
But I like how He-Man doesn't have his armor, so it is like
it's been used.
Yeah, when you're a kid, like that, the armor fell off immediately.
Plastic meat He-Man, yeah.
Yep. And he has like, yeah, the accessories are so cool. The posters on the wall, like he has the Masters of the Universe movie poster.
Oh, it's put together so well. The little magazines like popping out of the
I can't
table.
tell, but just judging by the colors and my mind scanning back, I imagine that to be a Nintendo Power magazine sticking out of the drawer.
It could be, yeah. Totally.
Or a Hustler.
Or yep, that's right. He-Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Hustler. Yep.
There's no internet connection on that game system. I'm just saying.
Well, Java's from Spain. I don't know if Hustler made it to Spain.
So quick shout out to Fernando, who's the best. If one of you could please show what I'm sharing. He sent me an upcoming picture of his. He just surprised me and put a smile on my face. This is Alf Reviews Everything.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Oh my god.
Oh man, Yimbo.
That's the Alf reboot we need to see. Alf is a podcaster now.
Yes.
Yep. So, and then he made this.
Love it.
All right, Chris. Now you have to find an Alf puppet, and we have to make this happen.
Oh gosh! All right, on it.
So yeah, so Fernando is the best. Love him so much. And that was just I told him, I was like, man, I'm like, that was just what a way to start my day. Like that's how I'm drinking coffee in the kitchen and I'm going through DMs and I go, oh, you get out of here, Fernando. Come on. So that was wonderful. So let's see. We have answers. So here we go. The story behind the pick. I wanted to somehow recreate a scene of my ideal room growing up. Truth is, I never had a TV in my room, but hey, I 3D printed a Sega Mega Drive Genesis for us in the US and one of my favorite games, Sonic. Painted it black and added some stickers. I opened up a TV prop, took out the screen, and printed a screenshot of Sonic. I printed as well some posters and a couple of Sega magazines we had in Spain. That's Toto Sega. And BTW, those 2 issues printed featured my drawings in the fan mail section back in 92 and 93. That's cool. See, Harry, we even put in Easter eggs in our toy photos.
Excellent. Well, I noticed the Masters moving in closely. So I figured there was a time period. Jurassic Park gives it away, but that's a nice touch that they have the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe poster.
Yeah.
Which would have been a little bit later than the He-Man figure, although that He-Man figure was probably on the shelf in some format for close to 10 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. He also said and used Luke as a figure because it was the only fig that kind of looked like me, albeit older. Figure that I won from you guys in the Randalorian challenge, and he's also waiting for our next TPC Toy Daddy challenge. And he said, couldn't decide on a night scene or daytime, so I posted both. It kind of felt right as I could spend the whole night playing until daytime. Love it. Oh my God. So good. So good. That's just so good. He's great. So congratulations, Chava.Fernando and Josh Brown. OMG, Alf would totally be a podcaster now. I love it.
Oh man. Congrats, Chava.
Number 2, the Geek Cool.
Ooh.
All right, who wants to go first for this bad boy? Lots of stuff happening here.
Chewy.
Oh, I just imagine I'm just picturing the idea behind this photo and basically being someone's imagination. Like these are all the characters that are currently floating in someone's head right now that they're thinking of.
What? So I'm very interested. These are all minifigs, right? But then Iron Giant, is that also somehow
that looks
Lego?
Like that looks like the Diamond Select.
Diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is just like I'm gonna be curious about the answers, but yeah, this definitely seems like well, Harry, like you were talking about nostalgia. This is just nostalgia. That's another
Yeah.
theme of some of these pictures based on the last one too.
And
See
I'm having a hard time remembering what year it was or whatever, and I forget who did it. But somewhere in my storage, I have the Iron Giant mitten box from whatever the original run. That was one of those. I may have even seen it in the theaters. It was one of those films. I guess we call it a cult classic. It didn't do well at the theaters. I think there was probably something else at the time that the studios were more intrigued with or whatever. But
Yeah.
you go back and look at the values to find the Iron Giant stuff, and I can't remember what toy company, if it was Trendmasters or I don't think it was Hasbro or Mattel, but there was someone who had the line and the robot. I don't think this is the one, but I just thought that was a great movie, and I'm glad to see that it's getting its due now. You know, a few years ago it started getting its due, and I always thought, maybe Warner Brothers or whatever would do, a sequel. But it's always neat to see the Iron Giant because it didn't have that commercial. So if I had my kids up here, or a lot of the other characters like the Simpsons, or actually most of the characters, the Lego characters at the bottom, they would recognize, but I don't think they've seen the Iron Giant. That's just that's a good movie, I think, to bust out this weekend. Make my kids watch it, and forget how good that was. And I don't want to use the word failure, but I guess it was at the time it was deemed a failure. But yeah, that would have been right in that whole 90s time period where I get most of my inspiration.
Man, like even Wade Creed says Iron Giant, best animated movie of all time. I still have to see it myself. I feel so guilty.
It's on my list too.
My God. I'm sitting here and I just figured you guys have all seen it. I mean, that's everything I'm telling you. It's like I went to see it in the theaters. It didn't do that well, and I didn't think much of it. And, a lot of times I may have went to Toys R Us right afterwards just to pick it up or whatever. And, I'm guessing that, based on how it performed in the theaters, there was probably no reorders of toys so whatever was on the shelf was just, when it was gone, it was gone. So yeah, you go back and watch it. It'll make you want to go collect the stuff, but unless, like I said, there's a license that's doing it now. The originals are pretty pricey.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely I recommend, and I don't know what platform it would be in, if it's on HBO Max or whatever it is, but it's a well done film.
Mm-hmm. I do need to watch it. As Machu just said, I'm always late to watching movies, sometimes very, very late. I will watch it. And Nilla Gorilla, is the Diamond Select Iron Giant a pretty good fig? So I don't own it myself. However, I've only heard nothing but spectacular things about it on either
It's great.
version.
It's a great figure.
So Wade Creek goes, Vin got to do Iron Giant, Groot, and Street Sharks. I'm a fan for sure.
They paid Vin Diesel to. The Giant doesn't speak much, if at all. So he got to. He didn't have to work very hard on his lines,
for
Groot or for the Iron Giant.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to watch it. Maybe I'll make that a point this weekend too. We do have answers from Giuliano. So, the inspiration for this photo was to honor Towel Day by bringing together some of my favorite characters. Of course, putting everyone in the photo would be impossible, but I made a point of selecting some representatives from universes that are very important to pop culture. Almost all of them are Lego, my specialty, with the exception of the Iron Giant, one of my favorite characters of all time. The background was applied to a TV and represents a very dramatic and epic sky. After all, the geek universe that we love so much is exactly that, epic. And what's bringing Giuliano joy, I've said that many other times, but what makes me happiest about toy photographer community today is the collaboration, friendship, and understanding that there shouldn't be competition between artists, because everyone has a different vision and style, which makes toy photography so rich, diverse, and fascinating. I've been doing this for a long time, exactly 14 years, and I was one of the first to photograph Lego in Brazil. The friendship and respect between artists is what inspires me most and makes me happy to be in this community. And man, congratulations, Giuliano. Epic work. And thank you for your insight and your answers and your time and your work, because it's great.
Fantastic job. All right, let's move on to number.
This up and coming photographer, Harry. This is one of our buddies. He's also one of our fellow sister channels with Behind the Plastic, where so Not a Bird, Not a Plane. His name's Sully. That he and three of our friends, but they go off and interview fellow toy photographers, peek behind the curtain. But yeah, Sully does tremendous work, and I'll let you start, Harry. What's?
I thought it was the Spud guy from Laser.
Spudderman.
Spudderman. I thought this is like, well, wow, finally someone did the Spudderman right.
Oh man.
But then, now that I know it's not, I do like how they handled the icon and the eyes. And I'm not. It looks a little bit Old West.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked how they well, the eyes themselves are the chest spider is a nice extra touch. But and I'm not trying to be critical, but imagine if the chest spider didn't light up. And this is the designer in me. It didn't need to, because sometimes less is more. The eyes are the first thing that I think that if this person tries this photo or touches it up again where the spider is just black on the chest, because the eyes are great. Just that glow of the eyes, and whether it's a reflection of something or his spider sense or whatever. But I feel like the chest spider didn't need to glow because the face is just so nice.
But you mentioned that Western feel, and that was one of my comments on his. Like whenever he does, he dives into kind of old timey Westerny type stuff, and whenever he does, he nails it. He nails it. Oh, wonderful.
A 6-shooter instead of a web shooter. So whether that was intentional or not, there's some good stuff going on there. And I don't know if I've ever seen a cowboy hat on Spider-Man other than during the Laser Man presentation.
There was no cowboy hat, but there will be.
That's so kind. You called it a presentation.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I thought this was the web slinger. There's a multiverse like cowboy Spider-Man. So
okay, I'm not familiar with it, but it's that's a great concept. What would that be? The alternate universes or whatever,
multiverse.
Yeah. This character would fit right in as a multiverse character in the Spider-Man films.
100%. Yeah.
Well, we do have answers from Sully. So the story behind his photo is sometimes I try to find new ways to photograph my figures. Spider-Man is always in huge skyscraper cities. Makes sense. Otherwise, he can't swing around. Then I thought about him being a gunslinger instead of a web swinger and put him in the Wild West. So it was as simple as that little swap, that word play. What's making Sully happy right now is seeing so many new toy photographers just starting out, adding to our amazing community with their fantastic works of art. Our community seems to be growing exponentially fast, and I think that's amazing. And then I asked Sully some of the other questions because he's been in here before, Harry, in our top 10. So same deal. It was any new skill he would like to learn, a fictional world to visit, and a character in a genre. So a skill he'd like to learn is 3D modeling better than I do now. Currently, I have a tutorial up just to remember how to navigate the windows in the 3D program, so I would like to be better than that. LOL. So that's fair. He said, that was that one. Did I skip the rest? Okay. All right. In closing, I would just like to thank the community and how welcoming it has been to me. And to anyone who is just starting out, just have fun. Enjoy the journey and don't worry about the number of followers or likes. Photograph what you want to photograph. Don't stress out about it. They are toys. Enjoy them. And there you go. Sully, you're the man. Keep on doing just amazing things. He put up a thing today. Chewy, if you want to throw it up. I don't know if you want to real quick, but she showed off how he used paint to photograph. Like, go to his latest there, that reel right there. Check this out. So it's black paint that he took his own photograph with, and then photoshopped that into a Venom symbiote. So Harry, this is like the type of level that people get with our toy photography. Like, this is so cool. So he's photographing this, the paint going into the water, only to then layer it. Tell me that's not cool. Sorry.
So that's to be the symbiote that Spider-Man. That's pretty cool. Because that,
right? Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Natural look.
Who would have thought? I would have never come up with that idea to photograph paint in water and then use that as tendrils. Like, that's
crazy.
Look at that.
Insane.
Easier than sculpting it, and it looks more organic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing work, Sully.
That's incredible.
Jeez.
So keep on keeping on, Sully, man. That was awesome, dude. And that's it. We did our top 10, everybody. We did our top 10. Top 10, top 10.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man.
It's a team effort.
Oh, and Harry, thank you so much for your time this evening. Again, agreeing to come on. I know, like, it was funny when I sent you that first DM. I can only send you. I was like, and here's the link to our channel, and then it was like, you're not allowed to send any more messages. And I went, oh no. So thank you for getting back to me to email you, and thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, Instagram, some messages, it's not me, they're being flagged, and it goes into almost like a queue where I have to release and say, yes, I accept that. So when I don't do that every night. Some days I'm just, okay, let me remind myself to go through that. And I found some decent messages. I found some people that have been like, hey, I've got a great idea for a cereal. Can you pitch? Yeah. Okay. kind of like the Laser Man. I can't help you. I can't. No matter how good you think your cereal may taste, I can't help you. But yeah, I saw that in there. Like, yeah, absolutely. I corrected that right away. So your messages go into primary, and then now you have my actual email address.
Yeah, man.
Anything down the road anyway.
So we would love, if you enjoyed yourself tonight, we'd love to have you back at, it's sometime down the road as we, make our way through Comic-Con season. Are you going to be going to San Diego this year?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be there too, the three of us. So we'll be looking for you. I'll send you a DM when we arrive to the convention center that first day. We have tickets for Thursday, so we'll be there. But man, this has been such a pleasure and a real honor. So thank you very much for all of this tonight.
Well, I appreciate it. I think that we crammed a lot in a little bit of time, even though it was a couple hours. I don't know if that's what it felt like to you. It felt like to me it went pretty quick, but
yeah, man.
Maybe in the future is the I don't know, just throwing this out specific, like if the Iron Man stuff just comes out, like we can talk about that, because then it's something it's safe to talk about. Sure. And Chris could have probably I don't know what you guys have in the rooms, but we could have probably made a whole episode of just running down the entire wave. Right. And I could tell my very little, some of these toy packages, they have more stories than others as far as where an individual pose reference came from, or why things are a certain way. And then, then you guys, discuss the figure, which again, I can give my 2 cents on. They're all great. Again, the figures, but yeah, you could make a whole, episode of we break down a line that I've contributed to. But and I don't know. I think I have an idea on some of these things, who sculpts them. I don't always know, but I think it would be great for you guys to keep reaching out to people, because if there's someone else that is, I'm not the only one out there that works on toys that has an interesting story. Like I said, the sculptors, there's other designers, there's art directors. If you had Mr. Stevie on that, I mean, you you could probably get a story out of him every week and not run out of material. You know, from the whole toy history of stuff that he's been involved in with 25 years at Hasbro, and not just action figures. He's got a wealth of just toy experience that, you know, is worth discussing. So yeah, maybe that's something that, or even down the road, we revisit, you know, and do like a comparison of the retro Iron Man with the new Iron Man, or if there's something down the road that I've worked on. And you know, like I said, it was neat to do this, and I hope that I mean, obviously, I don't think I offended any of you, but I'm slow in my thought because I'm trying to make sure I use my words wisely and not say things that, you know, would upset anyone from Hasbro or any of my clients, or also upset any fans when I say certain things, because you know, I'm new to this kind of stuff, but I'm also trying to be honest with it, you know.
Yeah.
And how I feel is how I feel. And I don't think I've said anything, you know, derogatory or have like let the cat out of the bag on anything. But yeah, this was neat. This is probably the first what I did a call or a Zoom something, but it was Ghostbusters focused. So I think that, you know, that was kind of cool. We focused on the retro Ghostbuster stuff. So you know, this was fun, and yeah, I would do it again, and especially if it's something where there's a good subject matter, like meaning something of that I've worked on that has just dropped, and, you know, not that we dissect it, but we celebrate it.
Sure. No, that sounds awesome, man. And again, can't thank you enough for tonight. And Chris, if you want it real quick, we got to shout out our boy. Thank you, Machu.
Thanks, Machu.
Again, never expected, always appreciated, guys. So thank you so much, Matt, for helping with our SDCC fund.
That's true.
You know,
that's where that will go to. And earlier he had said, don't forget the Ken stage is available for pre-order. For those that are not aware, there is a Street Fighter Dio by Duart Studios. This is his, he said third Dio for Street Fighter, but it's up for pre-order right now. This is the Ken stage.
How much is it going for pre-order?
I think it's $350.
Okay.
And I think it has some sort of pre-order bundling too with the, if you pre-order now, you get like all this, I think. But
very cool.
Don't quote me. I don't know all the
and
details.
I think I saw Duart Studios on Between Two Sentinels that, you know, as you guys know, that Matt and John go on before at 8 o'clock. So as you are looking for shows to listen to or watch to get you through your next couple of days at work, so catch up on Between Two Sentinels, and as well as Yimbo Reviews Everything, because Duart Studios was on my stream with Henrock 112 this past Sunday. And I don't have anything specifically set up for Sunday yet. I don't think. I don't know. Or do I? I'm getting my life together. We're at that I need to go to bed time. But
yeah, definitely.
But in the chat, because Harry, you mentioned cereal, Laser O's could be a thing.
There you go.
And Mooder and milkshakes. Good job. Good job, people.
I don't know about Mooder and milkshakes. Maybe like some sort of ice cream treat or something.
Fair.
I guess.
Well, don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. If you've been enjoying the show, don't forget to let, you know, other friends know that we do this thing every week.
Yeah. Great show, everyone. Harry, thanks again. And we would definitely love to have you back on, talk more in depth about your retro art and align whatever comes out. That would also mean that we would have to buy 6 more figures, which I probably will
buy anyway.
Exactly. You can do it anyways, man. Might as well hear the backstory behind it. And plus, Harry, we didn't even touch upon your potentially, you know, pretty impressive toy collection.
Yeah.
Considering you're in the industry.
Yeah, and that, as going through, like, I totally forgot. You know, I'm throwing out things, but until I saw that comic book guy from The Simpsons, I totally forgot that Playmates went pretty deep with a line. Again, there's not enough time. I mean, and I had nothing to do with that line, but I mean, that was a line that I collected. And so when you guys said, I'm a fan of the industry, so I, talk respectfully about some of these other things, past and present, that were done well. And we could go on forever. But to go back, maybe you don't buy all 6 in a wave or whatever, but you have a key figure like the She-Hulk or whatever, and then just like you were doing with the toy photography, you show some of the photos from my Instagram, or you can go on my Instagram and scroll through that and just say, hey, what were you thinking here, or what happened here? And if I can answer it, I'll answer it. But and not just me. Again, I hope that because you had the nerve to reach out to me, or the guts to do it. I respect that, and I hope you get more people. Like, I think that's great that you had Mr. Stevie and Ryan and Dan on here, and then now you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with me.
Oh,
So,
we haven't had Ryan yet.
Okay. But I mean, this is great. I hope that you can find other, and I'm sure you will, but reach out to the people, because I think most of the people in the toy industry are nice. And like I said, they've all got great stories, as if and they all have it, and it's neat if you give them a platform, to have it told.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it, Harry.
Is this a rule?
I don't
We have
think
to stay
so.
until the super chat runs out.
I don't think so. Is it?
I don't know.
Oh, well,
I don't know
if
it's
it
a
is,
rule
we're
necessarily,
gonna break it. But Harry, I cannot wait. So, you were gonna share what your next line is right now.
Unite my toy collectors, photographers, and more. We had some fun tonight, but we're out of pictures to explore. We thank you for your time. It was nothing but sublime. Though it's time to go to bed, don't be filled with dread, because next week we'll be right here. Your Toy Daddies will appear to bring you joy and laughter every night and here on after.